Second.
Welcome everybody here this morning and on Zoom. I'd like to call this meeting to order on September 11th, 2024. Time is 9:05 a.m. here at the Colorado Mesa State University. And this time we'll do roll call. Catherine Bedell. David Block.
I'm here.
Thank you. Simon Martinez here. Jeff McCullough. Roberto Mesa.
Here.
Elena Miller Cooley. Colleen Pepler.
Present here.
Thank you. Harrison Top. Nick Trainer.
Here.
Thank you. Right now, we'd like to present for presentation of translation and the information to the audience.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Can you hear my audio okay? Just let me know. All right. So I'm Diego Pons here today with my colleague Alejandro Arrieta. We're here with the CLC. Just very briefly, because we're here all the time, just a reminder, we're going to be using simultaneous interpretation on Zoom in English and Spanish. After I finish giving the instructions in both languages, we activate the interpretation. At that moment, you'll see the globe icon that'll say interpretation. That's going to appear in the bottom corner of your toolbar on your computer. Please select that globe icon and please choose your preferred language. And if you're joining the meeting on your cell phone or tablet, please look for the More button or the 3 dots button to select your preferred language this other way. As always, if you're not fully bilingual, please select your preferred language so you can use the interpretation in case anyone were to speak in Spanish and you would like to know what they're saying. If you are bilingual, then you can just feel free to listen to everyone in the original language. And as always, like I was just previously reminded, please pay attention to the speed in which you're speaking. So long as you're speaking at a conversational pace like this, you're going at a great speed for us. But please make sure you don't pick up your reading speed. And please remember to speak clearly and loudly into the OWL device so that we can hear you here through the Zoom audience. So thank you so much for that. Buenos días a todos y a todas. Yo soy Diego Pons. Estoy aquí con mi colega Alejandro Arrieta y estamos aquí de parte del grupo del CLC. Vamos a continuar hoy utilizando la interpretación simultánea aquí en Zoom en inglés y en español. Cuando yo termine de dar esas instrucciones, vamos a activar la interpretación. En ese momento va a aparecer el icono del globo de la Tierra que va a decir interpretación ahí abajo en la derecha de su pantalla. Por favor, asegúrese de elegir ese icono globo de la Tierra y por favor seleccione su idioma preferido. Y si hoy usted está asistiendo a la reunión en su celular o en su tableta, por favor busque la opción que dice More, que quiere decir más, o tal vez el botón de 3 puntos para que pueda elegir su idioma preferido de esta otra manera. Así que si usted no es completamente bilingüe, le vamos a aconsejar que elija su idioma preferido para que pueda utilizar interpretación cuando alguien esté hablando en el otro idioma. Y si usted sí es bilingüe, siéntase libre de escuchar a todos hoy en el idioma original. Muchas gracias.
Okay, thank you. And we do have a quorum to proceed with today's commission meeting. So as we move forward here, the approval of the meeting agenda moving forward. If I can have a motion.
Sir Chair, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Nick.
This is Colleen. I'll second that.
Thank you. Okay, can we have a vote moving forward, please? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed, say the same. Being none, motion carried. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the approval of the August meeting minutes. I have a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the August meeting minutes as read.
I will second that. This is David.
All right, thank you, Colleen and David. All approved?
Aye.
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 Motion carried. All opposed, say the same. There are none. Thank you. Motion carried. Next is is there any public comment at this time?
There is no one right now.
All right. Thank you. Moving on here to the commissioner's report. Kate?
Thank you, Simon. And Simon, thank you for serving as chair today. Colleen, thank you for joining afar and hope you're feeling better today. First off, I want to say thank you to all who have welcomed us here in Mesa County and on the Western Slope. We've spent the last yesterday afternoon and evening, and then today here we're at the CMU campus in Grand Junction. So I want to say thank you to CMU for giving us the space and the internet and the food to be here. Lots of thanks from yesterday as well. Many of us met up at Kokopelli Farm Stand, which is, I think you all know, is the farm stand and the farm of our late and great fellow Ag Commission member, Brant Harrison, who passed away last year. And given that it's a year has passed already and that we were out in Grand Junction, we thought it would be a really nice thing to be at Kokopelli and just remember Brant and all of his generosity and camaraderie with us. Buy a lot of peach hand pies and peaches and peach donuts. And I think we all have our cars full of sweets and goods from the farm stand. And some of Brant's family, his wife and his son Eli joined us. And I want to say thank you to them for just coming out and being a part of our Ag Commission group. We also, after Kokopelli, we went to visit Sauvage Spectrum Winery and Vineyard. This is actually a grantee of CDA, and this is something that I think, as I mentioned, the commission will be doing more of over the coming years, which is really just highlighting the impact of CDA's efforts out in the field. It's one thing for us to report to you all, the Ag Commission, on how much money we put out through grants or loans in a given year. It's another thing to hear stories from the people that money in those programs have actually served. So later today on the agenda, we'll also have grantees from here in Mesa County or Western Slope who will present to us here in person and online, just again, telling the story of the impact of CDA's work on their business. We're working out parking here at CMU, which is obviously a thing sometimes for those of us who are new here. So in addition to the Sauvage Winery visit, we also were hosted by the Palisade Insectary, which is part of CDA. We are very gracious for our team at the Insectary for hosting tours and then setting up a lovely public forum last night. We actually had, I don't know, maybe a few dozen CDA staff from all over the Western Slope, which was really fantastic. So just a lot of good conversation. I think that was had and connections between divisions. And appreciate the public that showed up for the forum, and to Bethany and to our team member Sam at the Insectary for really making that happen. Colleen, I want to send a congratulations to you and Kent for your recognition with CSU, the Department of Agriculture and Resource Economics. Kent and Colleen were inducted into the Hall of Fame as Lifetime Achievement honorees just last week at Ag Day. So I'm sure you'll share more, but congratulations, Colleen.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We also have some staff with us here in the room. I think most of them you know, but I wanted to in particular say welcome to Paul K. Meyer. Paul is on our team here in Eckert, not far from here, a farmer and runs our salinity program for the department. Something we don't necessarily talk about as much statewide because it's such a Western Slope Colorado River issue, but it's a really big deal here on the Western Slope. And Paul, I just wanted to give you a chance to speak about yourself and your work for a few minutes if you have anything to share.
Thank you. My title is Salinity Program Coordinator. There are a lot of salinity program coordinators, and I'm one of them. Every agency seems to have one. Much of Western Colorado and many of the upper basin states are formerly were formerly underwater in a shallow sea, and there are large quantities of salt that got deposited during that time. As a consequence, there are about 9 million tons of salt that go down the Colorado River every year. It's amazing that the river even flows at that concentration. About half of the salt is naturally caused, and the rest of it is caused by man-made reasons. One of the main reasons is through irrigation. So both the Bureau of Reclamation and the USDA's Natural Resource Conservation Service are engaged in several of the upper basin states for keeping as much salt out of the Colorado River as possible, salt that originates from irrigation. I'm involved with those two agencies, principally the Bureau of Reclamation. The Bureau of Reclamation has a grant program that they make available to canal and ditch companies to do infrastructure improvements, principally lining large canals and piping smaller ditches, which decreases the amount of water getting to the lower stratus of the geography and geology and picking up salt and carrying it to the river. So for Colorado, as Commissioner Greenberg said, it's a pretty big deal. The Bureau of Reclamation has a funding cycle of 2 to 3 years, and in each case, each of those cycles, they have about $30 to $40 million to give out for canal and ditch improvements. It turns out in the last few grant cycles, most of that money's come to Western Colorado. So we're talking $20 million or so every few years to help with infrastructure improvements. And these improvements help a lot for the running of the ditches and for irrigation efficiency and making the water go further for crop production.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks for being here. So new folks at the department, you're going to meet one of them today, our newest division director, Joe Stafford, who's on with us. And I'll introduce him here in a little bit because we have another item on the agenda where he'll get a chance to introduce himself, and he has some agenda items today. We're very excited to have Joe on board. He has hit the ground running at the helm of the Division of Animal Welfare. We also have a number of other job postings in the process. So State Fair General Manager, we're continuing interviews this week with the State Fair Board. With that position, we've left it open until filled. So it's a much bigger process since we have a board involved and other stakeholders involved in the hiring there. But really appreciative to Hollis and Madison and the team at the State Fair for carrying on all of their work and the transition work as well. In addition, at our last meeting, you all heard that Les Owen was recruited back home to New Mexico to serve as the Deputy Secretary at the New Mexico Department of Ag. So we have posted for Conservation Division Director. That is open for a few more weeks, and we are really excited to get a great competitive pool for that position. So please help spread the word. In addition, Wayne East, our Ag and Wildlife Liaison, and Dustin Shiflett, who is leading up our non-lethal program on predator conflict reduction. Wayne and Dustin have posted for our 2 other positions we got through the legislative session this year. Those are non-lethal mitigation specialists, essentially folks in Northwest and Southwest Colorado who will be both on the range working to support non-lethal conflict reduction between livestock producers and wolves, but also helping support others who are on the range doing range riding, fladry, you name it. We're going to be out there with Parks and Wildlife, with our livestock associations and groups. And these 2 people will be actively supporting that work across the Western Slope. So really exciting positions there. And those are currently open. Dan Frazen, our Ag Emergency Coordinator, is also hiring for a second person for his team, another position we got this legislative session. So hopefully by the next meeting or 2, you will know who our second emergency specialist is. Again, that's just going to help us continue to respond to all sorts of events that CDA is responsible to responding to. And lastly, on the last two hires, Aldo Parra on Mark Gallegos' team, who runs our Ag Worker Services program, will be posting soon for 2 more ag worker positions, so stay on the lookout for those. And then we are moving through interviews for our next EA, and as always, want to thank Melissa for stepping in as interim, and of course, helping run Ag Commission meeting here today, and Hollis and Melissa and other team members who have helped do the review for applications and move that forward. On changing gears to 150-250, again, this is shorthand for a big year-long celebration we're going to be having in 2026. I'll keep updating you all regularly. 150 stands for the 150th anniversary of Colorado statehood, and it's also the 250th anniversary of the United States. We as an agency will be doing many things, one of which that we're working on already is the creation of a history book, coffee table book on Colorado agriculture. We're working with History Colorado. We've got a lot of irons in the fire here, really excited. We're also doing a massive archiving project and collecting all sorts of paper archives that have not been digitized, making sure we preserve those. On the history book front, I will likely be reaching out to many of you Ag Commission members to just talk about what kinds of stories we tell, who we interview for their personal stories. We really want the creation of this book to be something our ag communities are proud of and feel represented by, as we also tell the history, both past, present, and future of Colorado agriculture. Again, if this is something that interests you, please feel free to reach out, but if not, I will be reaching out to get your input as well. Last few items, just been a busy time, of course, with State Fair. Again, kudos to our State Fair team. Another great year. You know, we had our Expanded Centennial Farm and Ranches event, which we do with History Colorado. This continues to be such a prideful event. We had a few dozen families, including our own Nick Trainer, who were recognized as Centennial families. And as a reminder, we've expanded the Centennial event to go beyond just land passing down through the generations. So we know so many families in Colorado have been kept from passing down land, have been unable to pass down land one way or another, but have passed down agricultural knowledge, tradition, practice through their family for a century or more. We also were able to recognize Deb Daniel of the Republican River Water Conservation District for her work, which is a very tough job in preserving agriculture in Northeast Colorado, given the requirements in our compact to retire 25,000 irrigated acres. In addition, we were able to recognize the beet workers of Northeast Colorado who created a baseball league back in the previous century. And that story is also incredibly important to the history and present of Colorado agriculture. In addition to that, we had our 4th annual Governor's Plate, really showcasing Colorado Proud. We had 7 food trucks. They were all required to source Colorado Proud products. Hundreds of people coming through, trying food, voting on their favorite one, and really, really fun time. Proto Taste from Denver is a food truck that won the Governor's Plate Award, so hats off to them. And Stoke Pizza from Pueblo won the People's Choice Award for 2nd year in a row. Coming up, we've got a number of events. Personally, I'll be out in Gunnison next week with the stock growers, really looking forward to that. And then Robert and I will be in Monte Vista for Water Conservation Board. I'll be out in Indianapolis for our National Association meeting in a couple weeks. And just a reminder that National Association, NASDA, is a place where we have been influencing sort of a national platform around policy objectives that our association can advocate for in Washington. So we'll just continue to bring our successes, challenges, what we're learning here in Colorado to that national platform. And then lastly, on the travel front, we continue to work on numerous international missions, a state-led mission to Taiwan and South Korea in November. Jordan will be joining a USDA-led mission later this winter. And our international team is just doing a fantastic job bringing businesses from Colorado all around the world. And then now we're also adding in our climate smart marketing work. Many of you met Susan Enfield last night. She just brought 5 Colorado companies to a climate focused marketing conference. and is really helping make those connections between our climate smart work in Colorado and new business opportunities. So exciting work on the markets front, in addition to so many other programs that are just firing on all cylinders. So I will pause there, Chair, and see if there's any questions for me.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions at this time for Commissioner Reaper?
Hey, Kate, Dave, are you, is it possible to know how many applications we have for the state fair manager?
It's a good question. I don't know the numbers, David. But the team is doing what we do for every application process, which is taking in all of the applications, making sure they meet minimum qualifications, which is a requirement of the state, and then moving folks through various stages of interview process. So I don't have the total numbers, but again, we're working closely with the board, and actually members of the Fiesta Day and the Fair Foundation to make sure we're getting a competitive pool. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions at this time? Okay, thank you very much. All right, moving on here to the Division of Animal Welfare Director, Joe Stafford.
Great, and I
At
can
this time.
introduce Joe.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Well, Joe, welcome. I will hand it over to Joe here in a second, but just to provide a little context, as you all recall, this last session, we created a brand new division at CDA. So this is our 9th programmatic division. It's the Division of Animal Welfare. We moved to our 2 animal welfare regulatory programs underneath this one umbrella. So Bureau of Animal Protection and PACFA, the Pet Animal Care Facilities Act. So they're now under Joe's leadership. We have not changed the authorities of those programs. We've realigned. And then that has been able to allow us to create the new division director position, the new outreach and education specialist we're hiring for, and give more support and capacity to those 2 programs. We went through a very competitive search for the new division director and could not be more excited to have Joe as our new leader in this role. So Joe, I will hand it over to you to offer a background on yourself.
Good morning, members of the Ag Commission, and thank you, Kate. Again, my name is Joe Stafford, and it is my great honor to become the first Division of Animal Welfare Director. Want to give you a little bit about my background. I started my career with animals at an early age, helping my grandfather manage his small herd of cattle. Also, while in high school, I worked with a gentleman who raised, trained, field trialed English setters throughout the Southeast. During this period, I also did work with equines, as many of the field trials we participated in were conducted from horseback. When I was 17, I joined the United States Air Force. I was a law enforcement officer by trade, but also was provided with in-depth instructor, firearms, self-defense, and similar training. I was initially signed to Nellis Air Force Base in Las Vegas, Nevada, and this was before the first Gulf War, and I primarily taught firearms and desert warfare skills to all branches of the military, as well as other law enforcement agencies. In 1990, I was given a special duty assignment to the United States Air Force Academy, which is what initially brought me to Colorado. And during my time at the Academy, I worked with all military installations, cadets, regular law enforcement, and even had the opportunity to work with the Olympic Training Center. In 1999, I was honorably discharged as a disabled veteran. And after being discharged, I attended school full time. Then in 2001, I accepted an animal welfare officer position with the Humane Society of the Pikes Peak region. And I filled several roles with HSPPR and ended my tenure as the director of animal law enforcement. And that was in 2019. I then accepted a position as the director of animal services for the Animal Rescue League of Iowa to be closer to my wife's family, who are from rural Southwest Iowa. In this role, I continued my work in traditional animal control, I oversaw a team of investigators that assisted law enforcement across the state on all matters related to animal neglect, cruelty, and managed numerous other programs, including providing low-cost veterinarian services to individuals unable to access care. Earlier this summer, I was made aware of this opportunity and was encouraged to apply. I was particularly inspired by the positive changes I had witnessed within the department, excuse me, over the last 5 years. I never imagined I'd be offered the position. And yet here I am, thanks to Kate's call on a Friday afternoon. I want to express my sincere gratitude for all of you and everyone else who contributed to the creation of the Division of Animal Welfare. And I'm eager to work hand in hand with each of you and all of our key stakeholders to fully realize the potential opportunity we have been given. I'm happy to answer any questions anyone may have for me.
Are there any questions at this time for Joe? All right, well, thank you, Joe, at this time. Welcome aboard, I should say, right?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Joe. Moving on to the Regional Assistant Commissioner updates.
It looks like we do not have any of our regional assistant commissioners on.
Okay.
And if I can mention, Joe just texted, there's a countywide Wi-Fi outage in Routt County right now. So she's trying to get on. If she's able to join, maybe we can let her.
Okay, moving on here, we'll move into the operations update. Madison?
All right, thank you very much. So a few brief updates for everyone today. We are at that time of the year where we are going to be rolling out our annual board trainings. And so this is to ensure that CDA remains in compliance with House Bill 18-1198. But really what that means is our annual training that we're going to be going over for our various type 1 boards and commissions just to ensure that we're in compliance. So we will be doing that for this board in November. And then we do have our other boards like the Wine Board, the Brand Board, and the State Fair Board that we'll be doing over the next 2 months for those groups as well. So you can look forward to myself and Jordan and folks from our AG's office in November providing them training to you all. All right, and next is very exciting. We have our block party at CDA coming up. And so this is something I've never been to, and I'm really looking forward to my first block party. This is coming up on September 19th at the Broomfield campus. And so we're going to have food trucks and live music and a little bit of friendly competition, or so I've heard. And we would just want to say, if you happen to be in the area, right, the invitation is extended to you all in this room. And so we would be very happy to have everyone on September 19th back. And those are my very short updates. You're going to be hearing more from me on rulemaking coming up later.
Okay, any questions for Madison?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Madison, I know on CWCB, we're having to document the outreach from our commission members. Have you set up that something similar for the Ag Commission members? Because the new legislation was passed that requires a certain amount of outreach.
Yeah, so yeah, great question. So there was legislation passed this last session that requires type 1 boards like us to conduct a certain amount of place-based outreach. So actual in-person outreach around the state. We've been implementing our public forum for big game plan before that legislation was even passed, in anticipation, A, of the legislation, and B, it's also a great thing that connects us to our communities. So we have all of our records of all those public fora that we have held in conjunction with our Ag Commission meetings. We know the Ag Commission members that have attended. We also connect with Ag Commission members for other public facing events around the state. So we can, at annual training in November, we'll walk through that legislation more kind of step by step, but we've been anticipating this and working to make sure the Ag Commission is in line with it.
Yeah, sounds good. I think CWCB came up with a Google form that each commission member can just report events that they attend. So just they have that documentation. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the discussion of CDA's priorities. Colleen? Do you have anything to prove on this?
I don't. Simon, I guess the conversation would be focused around the commission members and what we've heard this morning from the commissioner's report and the operations update. Is there any discussion on any of those kind of topics that we covered today?
Is there any at this time? Okay, seeing none.
Thanks. Thank you, Simon.
Thank you very much, Colleen. At this time, we're looking at a short break, if that's fine. Does anybody need a break? Okay. Okay. Yes, we will do that. So at this time, we're not going to have any break, but we're going to move to Riley. If you want to give a report to the board, please.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yep.
I have been working on some outreach here in Southeast Colorado. I've been having a lot of one-on-one conversations. Nothing very substantial, just kind of people more interested in my job position and what I can do than anything. But I'm working also with, been working with Bethany and the outreach team. We're trying to get involved in a career fair here in Broward County that is the whole southeast area that will affect about 10 or 15 different high schools. And we'll be hosting that at the college. Hope to have a table set up there. Other than that, I don't have anything else. Fall weather is here.
Okay, thank you, Riley. Moving forward to Bethany on outreach opportunities, tours, and CDA public forum.
All right, well, as always, outreach is a little bit of a moving target, seeing which community we're in and where we can reach them and what's being done there. And so I just want to start off with saying thank you for coming to yesterday's. I still think it was really successful in terms of the connection between our employees. So that's one facet that I'm really interested in fostering a little bit more of that connection between field staff and people who work for CDA and other areas of the state. And that also includes Ag Commission members and of course, regional assistant commissioners. So trying to see how we can make connections between all of us so that we feel comfortable talking about programs, seeing opportunities, and bringing those to the attention of people who can make a difference. So whether that's at the stakeholder level or, you know, policy level or whatever. So that's why it's a moving target, is it changes a little bit. But yesterday's was our last bi-monthly Ag Forum for 2024. So the next meeting that we'll have will be in the Denver area. But I do know that there has been some interest in doing some type of virtual webinar or something where we can do something similar. So I do want to have that on my radar, and would love to talk with you guys more about what that might look like and how we can make that an engaging and meaningful opportunity for people to discuss things that are happening across the state. So don't want to say that's the end for Ag Forums, but then of course, as we're having this conversation with the legislation and what that looks like, flexibility is not technically my middle name, but it should be, because I am very happy to see what works best for you all moving into the next few months, depending on what other events are happening. I do really like that idea, Robert, of trying to have other people take track of where they're going. I do have the CDA outreach and engagement tracker, which kind of helps me to figure out where people are. I try to encourage our staff to use that, and you guys as well if you'd like to. But always feel free to shoot me an email and just let me know, hey, I'm going to be in this area. Is there anybody I can meet with? Is there anything that I can do? Because I do try to stay in contact with our division outreach specialists. And as you just heard, we have quite a few that are coming on board. We have other staff who are moving more into those realms of outreach and engagement. And so that's part of my job too, is supporting what they're doing. It was really great to connect Riley with Mickey, to have him let us know about this career fair, so that hopefully our ag workforce development staff have expressed interest in attending. It's been really great to have George and Robert as part of our legacy screenings that we had around the state with the rural mental health, and that's really exploded. And we're supporting other efforts from other organizations who have expressed interest in hosting their own screenings of this. So I think CDA is in a good position as we are starting to look at closing out 2024 and moving into 2025 for our public engagement. But always welcome more opportunities to have those discussions, especially within your own regions, about what you find to be the most important to talk about. So one thing that I do want to highlight that is upcoming in October is the Colorado Proud School Lunch Day. So this is on October 1st. And I will be reaching out to you all hopefully in the next couple of days to see if I have a list of schools who are interested in participating or who are participating through Colorado Proud, and would love to match make a little bit between Ag Commission, CDA staff, and others who would be interested in going to a school in your area and sitting down and talking with school kids of many ages about agriculture and its important connection to the food that they're eating and to their lives in general in Colorado. And so if that's something that you already know that you'd be really interested in doing, again, shoot me an email, let me know, and I will make sure that I will get that information to you so that we can have as many CDA, Ag Commission staff, anyone who is not afraid of small children and likes to answer questions, which could range from any topic as soon as you open the door. So, but that is a really good opportunity, again, to make that connection between what's happening on the farms and in the fields with what kids are seeing every day in their lunchroom. So that's a big one that I do and want to highlight. And again, that's October 1st is the actual day. So, and then, yeah, what I will say, one example of support that we can do with outreach is that Colleen is attending a conference here, and she's putting together a presentation on some women in Colorado who've done a huge amount of work to impact agriculture and looking at it from the viewpoint of women in agriculture. And so I don't want that to just be a one-off. If there are other presentations or things that you're working on, or you just want to troubleshoot through things, I know that a lot of you get asked to talk to people in your communities. And so if you ever need any technical support with actually putting together a presentation, or just want to talk through talking points or see, is there something that I'm missing as I'm having this opportunity to talk to my community? That's also what Olga and I are here for. And Kate and others are happy to troubleshoot through that as well. So don't feel like you're in a bubble all by yourself doing this work in your own region. I just want to end with that, but I feel like this position in particular that I'm in, I'm just here to support what you're doing and to see how I can make your lives better. And if that involves putting you in the way of small school children, I will do it. That's all I have.
Thank you, Bethany. Just to add on a little bit with the public forum that took place yesterday at the secretary, was a really good presentation of the CDA people that work in the area. And I heard about it, but I never had an opportunity to go in and do a tour. It was a quick one, but it's very interesting what they are doing and everything that they're involved with. So it was very good to be able to hear Commissioner talk about everything that's going on within the CDA and also the individuals in this area that are doing a really good job doing what, you know, they're set to do. So that was nice. Thank you, Bethany. Whoever set that up, all of it was good. Good outcome. Okay.
Before
yes.
we move on, I'm sorry. Colleen actually thought of a couple of priorities that she would like to discuss if we have time.
Yes.
Hey, can I ask a question for Bethany?
Yes, sir. Go ahead first.
Well, two things. One, well, I don't know if I want to put myself in front of children. I do want to just compliment the Colorado Proud Day at schools. There's a lot of schools reaching out for product, and it's a nice, you know, it's a nice little thing. So not little, that sounded demeaning. It's a nice thing. So to the extent that the department in Colorado Proud are instigating that, it's really nice. My other question, that was a comment. My question is, and you may be the right person to ask this, what has the internal dialogue within CDA been around the recent publication of the Denver Post's labor profile? And is there anything that we could or would want to discuss regarding the commission's role in having a response, not having a response, thinking about it? You know, it implicates not only agriculture, it implicates regulators, you know, there are many intersections of which we are sitting, that article seemed to target.
Yeah, I'll just say one thing and then I'll punt it over to Kate for more specifics. But if as there are many things that come up that are controversial or cause heartburn in any way, please always reach out to myself or Olga for like, how do I respond to this? Or I would like to dig deeper into this. And then of course, talk to Kate more as well, because we aren't going to have a response to that. But we do have thoughts on that. So I'll let Kate explain those.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And just to Bethany's point, our comms team is here to support any questions you all have. So the 3-piece series investigative report came out Sunday, I believe, on ag labor. That's the one you're referencing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's an important series, I think, for all of us to read. And it kind of walks through many issues that the Post has pulled out for many years, and then what's happening in Colorado now. To Bethany's point, CDA, we have been working on ag labor in as proactive a way as we can. And I think we're going to continue to push ourselves to be as proactive as we can. So what you'll see from us is a continuation of our ag worker services program that Aldo is leading, adding 2 new people to be support in the field. And this is a testament to Mark and Aldo and the folks we'll be bringing on. Mark and Aldo have done a fantastic job of supporting both employers and workers in this work. And that's really what we feel we're tasked to do. We are all part of the same agricultural community, and we all have rights and responsibilities, many of which are new under the 2021 legislation. So how can CDA continue to provide that support across the board, build out this program? And then we're also working with the Fair Food Program, which many producers on the Western Slope are either working with already or considering. And I'd be curious your take on that. But we're also interested in how can we lift up, again, that proactive approach. We're not here to say what has happened in the past, what might happen, and say, how can we hold ourselves to a very high standard, to the highest standard here in Colorado, to make sure our people are taken care of, and that we're all upholding our rights and responsibilities.
Okay.
Thoughts on
that? Certainly. I mean, I think that it was, as a reader, you know, I'm frustrated to learn that there is abuse happening that I'm not, you know, that I wasn't aware of. I'm also frustrated to feel like there was a lot of sort of what felt like very ambiguous language thrown out in an antagonistic way towards agriculture. These are just my feelings. That has nothing to do with CDA. So, you know, I read the piece and felt compassion for both sides of the argument. I didn't feel like we came off very well as an industry overall in the article. And which is too bad. I think I don't know when some of those interviews happened, but certainly people seemed to be slightly harried when they gave those interviews. One close friend of mine in particular didn't come up great. So you know, it was an interesting piece to read, and I'm sure we're paying more close. I'm paying more close attention to it than your average Coloradan is. But it is, you know, as a member of the commission, as a member of the industry, as somebody who takes labor issues very seriously, it is, you know, there were key things like Aldo and his program that I felt like didn't get any notice in the article. You know, key things that have been happening at the state level to create a better environment for both workers and for employers, to, you know, to Bruce's comment about, well, we got an infraction and it was just because we didn't know that the rule had changed, you know, things that we're doing as an industry to try to curtail that. And it was frustrating not to see that represented in the articles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just going to add to that. So with the 2 jobs that we're posting, we're going to keep building our messaging around what we're doing with job postings, with the services we provide. One example, and this was, you know, we're just in the 2nd year of this program, although being on board, but one example of the benefit we've been able to provide by having this program, the USDA's Farm Labor Stabilization Pilot Program has different levels of funding to producers to invest in basically building better labor standards, supporting workers on their operations, etc. We worked with USDA and they gave us the green light that any producer working with Aldo in our program would receive the highest ranking in the Farm Labor Stabilization Pilot Program when being considered for the grant.
Okay.
So many of the grantees that were successful had already been connected with Aldo and CGA. So that's something, an example of the benefit that this program can provide that we can elevate more. You know, so I think to your point about sharing the message, we're really trying to get that out as we build trust and relationships as well.
Sure.
But that's the kind of benefit we're trying to build, with real tangible benefits for our ag community.
Yeah. And that's great. Totally. And then I think kind of in keeping with that comment about Aldo and participation in the program, we did have I'm a participant in the Fair Food Program. We did have a meeting with their staff recently, a couple of growers and their staff, about how they can get more involved in Colorado. Colorado has weirdly become a hotbed for, like, we receive more FLSP money than any other state in the country. We have more new Fair Food Program participants signing on than any other state in the country. There's now a staff person that lives here. It feels like there is something happening here, and it's hard to exactly identify what it is that is right for building on. And I think our big ask of the Fair Food Program during that call was come to the table with some real proposals for what you'd like to see from collaboration with the state, because at this point we can talk to the commissioner, we can talk to employees about, like, well, you should do more with Fair Food Program, but you know, nobody's got the brain cells to, like, to whole cloth build a new program. And so that was kind of our ask to them. But I think when they do come to the table, and hopefully they do with proposals, I hope that we as a commission will be open to hearing from them and figure out where all those program and other programs can overlap, so that we're not being redundant.
And I appreciate that there's always a desire to have an action with things and not just sit back and let things slide like articles that bother us. And so to Kate's point of being proactive with messaging, you know, if there are things that you feel really passionately about and you want to get more messaging out about that, that's again what, you know, Olga and I are here to help. Maybe do a blog post with letter to the editor is appropriate, or identifying opportunities to speak at events or have these public forums where, okay, maybe this is something that we really want to talk about, what it is that we're doing. So rather than being reactive to things that we don't have control over, which is how other people paint our industry, we only have control over how we talk about our industry. And I'm all for figuring out how we can do that through CDA and talk about the things that we are working on. So that we can highlight those conversations. So if you want to connect offline about this.
Sure. I'd love to see a letter to the editor coming from a producer, preferably somebody who has any literacy left in them, which is not me. But I think that would be just an ideal response. Is a compassionate response letter to the editor from the producer, and maybe it will happen, maybe it won't, but that would be meaningful.
Yeah, well, let's keep talking about ways that we can advance messaging in a way that feels good for us at CDA and for you as a producer, and you know, making sure that we're staying above board on our behavior. So.
Yeah, great, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Harrison. Moving on to the next on the agenda is the Queen Welfare Assistance Grant Program proposal. Back to you, Joe. Joe Stafford, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. On page 7, I believe, in your packet, you will see a memo from Deputy Director Hollis Green addressing Equine Welfare Assistance Grant. that the newly created Division of Animal Welfare is asking for your approval today on. As we previously mentioned, House Bill 24-1458 created the Division of Animal Welfare, but it also provided the department with $200,000 in funding in this fiscal year, and as well as 2026 and 27 to promote domestic animal welfare. And during the legislative session, legislators made it clear that they wanted these funds to be used to advance equine welfare. And one of the first tasks that I began working on since my assignment is trying to get these funds out into the hands of people that can advance equine welfare. So we are required as part of the legislation to seek your approval of a stakeholder process. And that's what we're here today to do. So we're proposing that we're creating a grant program that focuses on advancing the well-being of Colorado's equine population. The grant focus would be on the items included in the memo, primarily education and outreach, emergency care, and veterinarian shelter of horses. The second bullet indicates that applications would need to be for a minimum of $25 or $25,000. I will tell you that we launched our stakeholder survey on Tuesday, so we're 2 days into receiving responses, and we're already up to an amazing 62 responses. And one of the consistent feedback that we've been given is that that number will likely need to be lowered, and we will continue to monitor that feedback and make sure that it's consistent with what the folks are wanting and telling us that the need is. So this program is being created with this stakeholder input over the next few months, with the grant application period opening before the end of the year. And as I mentioned, the stakeholder input will really guide what it is that we want to do with this grant and be consistent with what the industry is telling us. So we are requesting the Ag Commission's approval to move forward with the stakeholder process and begin creating this grant program. And I believe on the first page of the agenda, there's a suggested motion to move forward. I'm happy to answer any questions anyone has as well.
Thank you, Joe. Is there any questions for Joe at this time?
Chair, this is Colleen. I move that the commission approve the creation of the Equine Welfare Assistance Grant Program as proposed.
Okay, thank you, Colleen. Is there a second?
This is Roberto. I'll second.
Thank you, Roberto. All in favor? Either aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, at this time, are there any opposed? Same sign? Okay, if not, we'll move on that suggested motion. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you all.
All right, moving on to the Bureau of Animal Protection agent confirmations. Dr. Courtney.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for giving us a spot on the agenda today to present 2 BAP agents for your consideration for final commissioning approval. I wanted to remind the commission that our renewal period is coming up this December. So these newly commissioned agents would have a short commissioning timeframe in which they would then have to renew this application, but that's a bit of a simpler process and doesn't have to involve the Ag Commission. So our first candidate for consideration is Ivona Nelson with the Summit County Animal Control and Shelter. Ivona has over 100 hours of training in animal cruelty investigations and law enforcement and has been an animal control agent since 2022. She's passionate about providing education to public stakeholders on animal welfare. Our second agent for consideration is Jacqueline Maurman from the Humane Society of the Pikes Peak region. Jacqueline has over 150 hours of training in animal cruelty investigations and law enforcement, and has been an animal law enforcement officer with HSPPR since 2023. She is dedicated to providing thorough and unbiased animal welfare investigations, and those are our two agents.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Courtney. At this time, Sam, there is a suggested motion on this item. Could I get a motion?
Mr. Chair, this is Colleen Pepler. I move that the commission confirm these applicants to become Bureau of Animal Protection agents as recommended by CDA staff.
Thank you. Colleen, may I have a second?
I'll second it. It's Nick Trainer.
Thank you, Nick. All in favor? Their eye or hand?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Okay, at this time, any opposed, same sign? Okay, thank you. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Courtney. Moving on here to the briefings on upcoming rulemaking hearings. Madison?
Yes.
Back to you.
Thank you very much. So today we're going to be hearing 2 rulemaking briefings, and these will be coming back as rulemaking actions in November for you all. The first that we have up today is for the rules and regulations pertaining to the Colorado Seed Potato Act. And we have Wonder with us today to present on this. And in your board packets, there is a page on that has the hearing information. And so just so everyone knows that this is not the hearing. The hearing will be taking place, however, on October 16th at 9 a.m. And if you would like to register for the hearing to make sure that your comments are part of the official hearing record, you will need to register, and that information is on the memo page for this rule. So I would now like to hand this over to.
Thank you, Madison. Good morning, Commission, and I will be briefly going over the seed potato rule amendment, and then this was basically brought by the industry, and then the major reason why the rulemaking is needed is number one, to accommodate the legislative change that was made at the last legislative session, and then this was driven by the ever-increasing potato virus wild in the valley, which is considered as a community disease, and then the producers come and then they have then along with Colorado Potato Administrative Committee and then the Seed Potato Advisory Committee, that there is a need to intervention, and so that the growers, there is better regulation of the unregulated plant bug. The plant bug is that the farmers have the provision to use their retained seed from the previous certified seed potato, but that basically was found to be high in potato virus wild, and therefore the whole premise is basically to manage this. Therefore, the proposed rule, number one, is to delete obsolete language in the rule, which is in part 2, and then that basically was on all provision from that of 2013. And the second is amend part 3 and delete obsolete language related to uncertified potatoes that are more than 1 year removed from certified parent potato, qualified parent potatoes. This is also very to make it relevant, and at the same time also to amend the change that was needed to accommodate the need. And therefore, the major part was to amend to part 3 and establish new sampling, testing, evaluation and reporting requirements for planting uncertified seed potatoes that have been grown and stored as part of the grower's farming operation, and that are no more than 1 generation removed. And this, the part 3 basically provided the timing when the farmer has to submit their seed potatoes that they want to plant, and also the testing requirement, the seed potato of the certifying authority, which is the Colorado State University, San Luis Valley Research Center, and then when they need to let the Colorado Department of Agriculture, the commissioner, and then also the farmers notify the result, and then also establishing the virus tolerance that will be used to determine. Therefore, the part 3 is basically where we have made extensive change, extensive rule amendment. Part 4 is the amend established standards for a year. And the part 5 is to clarify the percentage of growers to be audited because of the increased need, increased use of uncertified potato, and therefore the audit, which was the legislature or the act say not less than 10%, and therefore to be consistent with the act, and therefore we have made an adjustment of or to reflect in rule. And therefore, the audit will be at least 10%. So it could be depending on the use and the number of uncertified seed potato. It could be 15 or even more. The other amendment is in part 4 to clarify the testing requirement, and what was agreed upon based on the recommendation of Colorado State University is that previously 400 tuber sample used to be collected or submitted, but there is an agreement that 200 seed is enough. That will also reduce the cost for farmer, and then also because of the high disease tolerance that's expected, the 200 sample would really be enough for sensitivity and to also represent the value that's expected in the seed potato. Therefore, we adopted 200 seed tuber. The last before is to amend part 8 and update hourly inspection fee. This is also to be in par with the fruit and veg inspection fee, and therefore this is basically to be consistent within the department on how much is charged for the audit of audit to be done as part of the seed potato inspection. And the last is there are a couple of numerical and typographic errors that was made, and therefore basically to capture this in the rulemaking. We have done an extensive consultation with CPAC, Colorado Potato Advisory Administrative Committee, and then the Seed Potato Advisory Committee members, and then also have made an industry consultation. And then we have captured this, their concern. Their concern was, number one, that this will potentially may also create a shortage of seed, and therefore how to accommodate and then how to avoid that. Number one, what we did was, because currently we don't know what's the prevailing percentage in the plant bag, and therefore we'll do the testing. The first testing will be made once the rule is approved in January, and therefore we'll collect next year by November 1. And then once the November 1 the sample is collected, and then there is an approved timeline basically to clear there is a predictability in the or the farmer will submit by November 1. November 1 they have to, and January 2nd or within the 60 days the CSU has to notify and then do the test and then report back to the grower should be notified. In February 15, the CSU has to submit means the aggregate value, aggregate PVY level in the seed, and the commissioner will deliberate on, along with the Seed Potato Advisory Committee, and establish the tolerance by April. Therefore, there will be a timeline of November 1, from September up to November. Farmer has to submit, and the CSU has to notify by January, and then by February 15, 45 days, then they have to submit to the CDA and the commissioner the aggregate number, and by April 1, then we'll have tolerance established. This will be to 2026, and then for and that will be, once the tolerance is established, it will be used for the subsequent growing year. And therefore, the first year that will be implementing this rule will be, or the tolerance established will be used by April 2027 planting. And therefore, the first year will establish the tolerance, will know how much it is, and therefore there will be a 2 year of transition to implement this. And there is a good agreement, understanding with the industry, and therefore this is what we have proposed in the rulemaking. If there's any question, I will be happy to provide.
Thank you. Is there any questions at this time pertaining to the Colorado seed potato rules and regulation?
It's really hoping to get input from our token potato grower, but
he's not here.
He's AWOL. So.
Probably in markets. Let's give him benefit.
Yeah, we'll get
That's what we will. Thank you. Okay, guys, we'll have more on this moving forward. So next on the agenda is rules pertaining to the administration and enforcement of the Procedure Safety Act 8 CCR 120217. Dwayne.
Good morning, and thanks for having me today. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. So yeah, the produce safety rule, the change we're talking about today is really regarding the new pre-harvest ag water rule. And we have adopted by reference the federal produce safety rule, which is Title 21, Part 112. And these changes that we're asking for or looking at, really, it looks rather simple on paper, and I won't read the whole change language, but it changes from March 18th, 2019, the old ag water rule, to the current ag water rule that was published on May 6, 2024. And what that does is move the state first in line with all other states and the federal rule that moves us away from testing to an assessment. So it gives a farmer the ability to assess his water risk and address them without necessarily testing. And I think the easiest way to explain that is if we all know how canal systems work, and you can test water now and 15 minutes later, depending on what your upstream farmer's doing, that water test can change. But you're not testing regularly, and you couldn't ever test your way out of to ensure. So what this does is move away from testing that's expensive for the farmer, may not give you an accurate assessment of your real water risk, to allowing a farmer to evaluate their risk, look at their risk, do a written assessment annually of their risk, and address those risks as they need be. So it takes us from, like I say, testing protocols that meant very little to a practical application that a farmer can apply in the field. What it also does is allow us to remain consistent with other states so that our farmers aren't disadvantaged having the testing costs to monitor. Doesn't mean testing can't be part of the assessment, but it's not the entire thing. So it helps us remain consistent with other states in the federal program and allows us to continue to seek funding at the federal level from the FDA. And with that, I'll take any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Dwayne. Is there any questions for Dwayne on this moving forward? Okay, seeing none.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Dwayne. Okay, moving on to rulemaking actions for consideration and approval. Madison.
Okay, thank you. So today we have Mark Gallegos with us, who's going to be presenting on the rules pertaining to the confinement of egg-laying hens. And as a review for everyone, we held our hearing for this rule on August 15th. Dan Zangari, the ICS Technical Services Section Chief, presented the proposed rule. And at the meeting, we received public comment by a producer saying that he appreciated the efforts CDA had made to support producers. So I'd now like to hand this over to
Right, thank you, everybody. Hello, good morning. My name is Mark Gallegos, Division Director within the Inspection and Consumer Services Division. So I'll be presenting rule changes that are being proposed for the cage-free egg rule portion of the egg program. So the egg program is seeking a change to the state cage-free egg rule to, one, define the term combination food and cage-free egg, which were not previously defined. These will be found in section 1 of the rule. Clarifying the eggs in compliance with the Act can be labeled with the statement CO-COM, even if they are not distributed in Colorado. That can be found in section 7. 3, recognize alternative labeling by changing parts 7 and 4. Number 4, clarifying accreditation of certifying agents, renewal of accreditation, inspection of accredited agents, and renewal of certificate of compliance. The change would affect the registration period January 1, 2025 to December 31, 2025. Distributors who sell or distribute shell eggs or egg products in Colorado are required to register annually with the program. This change, if approved, will clarify the requirements to be in compliance with the rule and provide additional options that may be used to be more universal as additional states adopt cage-free laws. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have at this time. And if not, if there are no questions, I ask for your support and vote to approve these changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Is there any questions for Mark at this time? Seeing none, there's a suggested motion at this time.
I'd like to move, Chair, please, that finding that these rules are necessary and proper to carry out the rules pertaining to the confinement of egg-laying hens, I move that the Commission approve the amendment to 8 CCR 1202-19.
Thank you, Arson. May I have a second?
This is Roberto. I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Roberto. Motion to approve.
Aye.
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 All right, thank you. And all opposed, same sign? Seeing none, thank you. Thank you, Mark. It shows here we're gonna break for lunch, but we're having
If I could make a suggestion.
Yes.
We do have 2 of our regional assistant commissioners online, Nick Purchase and Joe Stinko. So I feel like it would be an appropriate time to hear updates from them. And then perhaps we could take a break and when we resume, move on to commission member updates.
Okay, I like that. Thank you. Okay, would you either Nick or Joe like to start off here with your updates?
Nick here. Sorry, I'm not visible. I can go first. It's been a really busy month. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. It's been a really busy month, ramping up, of course, state fair, working on local unified code stuff this year in our county. I've been in DC since last Thursday. I had a chance to sit down with a bunch of representatives from the House and the Senate, polling, I think somewhere around 33 at this point. I'm excited to get on a plane and come home. Really pushing for that farm bill, see if we can head in the direction of getting something signed. So our producers know to look forward to in the next 5 years and plan accordingly. I'm really kind of sad to not be there in person. I was really kind of looking forward to it. In person. It's in a really nice area.
Nick, hold on 1 second. We're going to try to get a little bit better line for you. We're having a hard time hearing you on this end. Is there something we need to do or you need to do different? Nick, you still there? Okay.
Yeah, I think she's
Okay,
trying to call
cool.
back.
All right. Joe, we'll move on to you and then we'll go back to Nick.
Okay, I'll make it quick, because I've got hay to bale still. Anyway, as you can see, it's a double micro police day here in Routt County, but it's the time of year up here in the northwest part of the state that we're either winding up things or starting things. So I'll start with the Leafy Spurge project, Yampa Valley Leafy Spurge project. The meeting is tomorrow, the wind-up meeting, but what they've accomplished is they have managed to go to Idaho and capture over 75,000 of those little critters that like leafy spurge salad. They've brought them back and they have released them up and down the river in hopes. What they're trying to do is establish their own little insectary where we don't have to go to Idaho to collect these insects, but have our own little nursery here that we can then help spread them up and down the river. Secondly, there was a meeting for the Continental Divide Muddy Pass Gap working group. There is legislation that says that the gaps along the Continental Divide will all be filled in by the 2050. There's only one gap left, and that's a gap that ranges from Routt County to Jackson County and Grand County. The Continental Divide doesn't go in a straight line, so it wiggles. And so that makes that gap open. It's 29 miles where people are walking on public roads, including Highway 40 down from Rabbit Ears Pass, down Highway 14. It takes up the majority of that, but about 10 miles of it is walking on county roads across there. They have come up with 3 proposals for alignment of them. One is the northern proposal, which affects 5 different ranches, going onto public access through 5 different ranches. There is one that continues and talks about cutting through 1 different ranch over to 14 and expanding. It has a huge, wide easement down the highway there, and talking about expanding a walking trail, not on the highway, but along in that easement. And the third way is there is a rancher that for the bulk of it was willing to realign through the middle of his ranch that kind of solves the problem. He's a a second landowner. He's recently bought the ranch. And part of what the hangup is the overlay of wildlife animal habitats and critical habitats. So they're having another meeting, a virtual meeting on the 24th. The 2024 Food Summit, the Western region received a grant. Where we are with that is that we will be holding 3, maybe 4 meetings, regional meetings, one in the Northwest, one in the Southwest. And right now we're trying to determine with 2 in the central area, which makes sense, in the Grand Junction, Palisades, Delta. I mean, let's face it, down up here, we don't grow a whole lot of variety of foods, and the central area has, lots of food to help with those food things. So stay tuned on that. The Colorado Mountain Train had its first meeting last night. I attended that. There's a lot of potential there for helping not only the Northwest region be able to recap some of those jobs that they're missing with Tri-State and the mine and the energy things, for if we can get the trains to not only carry passengers. Right now its focus is on moving people, tourists and employees that work in the tourist areas, and reducing traffic along Highway 40 and I-70. But if we can get them to go back to the way the train was before and provide bringing in goods and taking goods out to a larger market, there's a lot of potential for all kinds of farmers and ranchers, as well as small businesses, to expand and recoup those jobs. You've probably heard that they have removed the wolves, and I'm not going to take anybody's, because I know you'll have, or maybe you've already talked with Wayne, the wolf, the Copper Creek Wolf Pack, and they have moved them. The male died. He had evidently been kicked in a leg, had an injured leg, and he'd been kicked by a cow or an elk. And so he was not doing well anyway. But the female and her pups are all in kept in a large enclosure. I kind of think it's sort of like the soft release instead of the hard release, which, when with the choices there. Dustin's doing a great job up here, running around and meeting people. He came to our county fair, and I introduced him to a number of producers down in the area where the wolves are visiting. Then he's also already set up a range riding workshop, trying to help decide, since the Department of Ag is with charged with range riding and the grant for non-lethal deterrence. And has a meeting here and he's got broken that down into county meetings. So he's doing an awesome job there. And the last thing is the Northwest Colorado Development Council had its first meeting. They're charged with developing, business plans and helping both ranchers, agriculture in our area, and small businesses. They have a exit conference and financial agreement that's on the table right now for the cities and counties that are impacted by the loss of any revenue that Tri-State has. They have a plan going, and they now know how much money that they will have. And any questions? And that's about all I have right now.
Seeing none, thank you, Joe.
Thank you. I'm going to go bed. Hey, bye.
Hey, Joe, sorry, this is Dave. I got
a
little while to find my mute button. getting back to the wolves, they think they caught everything that was kept or released then?
No,
you just
all the
female or cubs.
Yeah, the one that was doing most of the predating, the pair that mated and had they ended up having 4 cubs. They captured all of those, and as I say, one died. I did put out a press release. They did put out a press release. I think I forwarded it to some of the wolf people, but if you want, I can forward it to somebody there. I think Kate, you may have it too. But there is a press release from the Department of CWP about that containment right now. Their plan right now, according to their press release, is that they will be keeping the pups, especially in this large enclosure, which they don't tell me how big, don't say how big it is, but I'm assuming that it is the idea that they won't be fed. It's large enough that they can't escape, small enough they can't escape, but large enough that they will do their own feeding with the elk and deer and what other animals are available. That's just my assumption.
I see. So they.
Sorry, Dave. I was just gonna say we can add to a link to that press release in our follow-up Ag Commission email.
Okay, you're gonna add it, or you want me to?
Yeah, we can add it, Joe.
Okay, thanks. That's all I got. Anybody want to come and bale hay or help stack? We have a lot to do yet.
Thank you, Joe.
I love stacking hay. I'll go. It's like a puzzle. You gotta get it packed in there just right to protect it. I love it.
Yeah.
And Simon, Nick said that she is trying to get to a better spot. Okay. And so if you wouldn't mind calling on her again after the break. Okay. She thinks that she can give an update. And then additionally, we have Michael Weeks, our presenter for Grasshoppers, right, who is available. So after the break, he would be willing to go ahead and bring it.
Let's do that. Let's have a 15-minute break or so. We'll be back at 10:45. And then we'll have the next person on the agenda, Michael, will be next at 10:45. Is that fine?
We may want to pop these doors okay? I thought it's like a 5 yelling.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, everyone, we'll get reconvened here and Grasshopper presentation, Michael Weeks.
I don't see Michael on.
She's on the phone.
Oh, there he is. Sorry, Michael.
He's muted. There we go.
And while Michael's coming off mute, just to put this in context, obviously it's been a big grasshopper year, another one, as David has attested to, out in Northeast Colorado. In our previous meeting in the San Luis Valley, there was quite a lot of discussion with the commission about sort of the resources available. CDA has next to none, just to be frank about that, for grasshoppers, but we try and connect our producers with agencies that do have a little bit more resources at hand. So this is a follow-up to that, and we appreciate Michael joining us to give an update from the USDA side of things. And of course, Wandrat is here as well.
Yeah.
Anything to add?
Thank you, Kate. The one we are looking at is Patton McPherson. He's state plant health director from EPIS PPQ. EPIS has, I think, 5 wings. One of which is plant protection and quarantine. And he's the state director. Mike is he's coordinator of the Grasshopper and Mormon Cricket program. I think they are here, and then definitely we have a collaboration on all issues of plant health, federal, state, and then the local issues. But there are some programs they do on behalf of the state, which was decided, I think, long ago. The Grasshopper, when the state stopped basically all its program. Basically, it was handed over for PPQ, and then also there are forest pests. Also, they do the survey and also control because the resource available is very small, and therefore they are the ones that taking care of it. So, Pat, you can introduce, and then you can also pass on to Mike.
Okay. I didn't mean to show myself, and I couldn't figure out how to turn myself off. So it looks like Mike is on. I'll let him go ahead and get started, and then I'll say something at the end. Thanks. Mike, it's all yours. I don't know why you're showing up, Mike. When I turn my audio off, it goes away. Are you there, Mike?
No, we don't have him. Pat.
Okay, well, let me go ahead and start. Oh, hey, Mike, go ahead. You're muted, Mike.
So Pat, I think for some reason your name is showing up as Michael Wings. Okay.
Yeah, well, I'll guarantee I'm not Mike.
So I
Mike's
think
not me.
so I don't see him logged in anywhere else. It could be that you're using the same Zoom account, and that's why you're showing up perhaps under that name.
Maybe that's it. I don't know. But Mike was on earlier, I thought.
Do you want to go ahead and present for Michael at this time on the
Well, he had a
grasshopper?
PowerPoint presentation that he was going to share with everybody that'll go over what's happened the last couple years with grasshoppers and Mormon cricket in Colorado. So I'm not really let me try to give him a call, see if he can get back on. I'm not sure. So can you skip us for right now, and we can go after the next presenter?
Yes, not a problem.
Okay, let me try to get a hold of him.
And Patrick, just so you know, if you are using the same Zoom account, only one person can log in at a time. So you might need to log out for Michael to be able to log in.
Okay, I will log out, and hopefully Mike is there. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. I think at this time moving forward, we can do some commission member updates prior and just move into that. Is it fine? Okay. So if there's any commissioners that would like to give their updates at this time, then we'll be a little bit ahead of schedule. Any volunteers? Harrison.
Sure.
Go ahead. Thank you.
So the peach season is winding down. It was speaking for myself and as something of a proxy based on my conversations with other people, it was a good year, but probably a little bit down. We estimated that our yields were down probably 35% from what we would consider a full crop-ish, which is always a bit of a moving target, especially after the freezes a couple of years ago. Just as for context about that, you know, many of you may or may not remember that there was some very hard fall freezes that had deleterious impacts on trees, not just on fruit and bud set, but on the trees themselves. And so many people who for many years had, full blocks, where you knew how many trees were in the block and you knew how many healthy trees were in the block, et cetera, et cetera. You know, that's becoming a less consistent thing to be able to count on because of the freeze. So, you know, so we're seeing, it's a little bit more difficult right now to calculate full crop because some of these some of these blocks are more like partial blocks because they've seen disease and death pressure because of these the fall freezes that happen. So that's an ongoing thing that will last probably for the 5-10 years more that we'll be dealing with. But generally speaking, I think the freezes this spring ended up knocking us back a little bit, or more than a little bit. And so I think across the industry, we were probably down 15 to 30%, somewhere in there. That did mean that at least from our experience, it felt like the market was very hungry. It felt like there was a lot of opportunity to self-root, to maintain prices. We didn't hear, I didn't hear as often complaints from people about undercutting and dumping in the market, which is always an upsetting thing to hear, especially as the peak of the season rolled around. Anecdotally, I think there's something funny that's happened over the past 6 years, 10 years probably, which is that many growers have been moving to earlier and earlier varieties because there's demand to get peaches into the market early, but it means that in some ways consumers are getting tired of peaches by the time we're having our really peak yields. So I think we've done it to ourselves. I don't know how we undo it or if we want to undo it, but it is certainly a funny phenomenon. Case in point, this year when we were at our peak, a lot of multiple people sent us a note saying that they were taking peaches off ad, that they weren't going to be on sale. And I was like, why this week? Why of all weeks did you choose this week to go off ad? So anyways, I think probably most people felt like they had a decent year, but not a great year. Apples are coming online for us. We're for those of you who don't understand how the fruit districts work, there's not really such a thing as the fruit districts, but colloquially the fruit districts, is that Palisade up here really just ends with peaches for the most part. Down where I live in Delta County, we have we're one of the last places that still has something of an apple industry. We've got a couple hundred acres probably left of Honeycrisp and various other varieties, Gala and some heritage things as well. So we'll keep going for another 2 months, another month and a half picking apples and storing apples, and then continue selling apples into December, probably in some cases later. So that's where we find ourselves. The crews are getting ready to go home. They're happy to log as many hours as they can right now, but you can tell that there's some senioritis in their attitudes. But that's just fine. I feel it as well. So it was a fairly strong water year for us in our canal system. I think most people across the region, nobody saw major shortages in their water supply. There were a couple of issues, canal breaks around us. Sedimentation continues to be a challenge that we don't know how. At this moment, we don't have a plan immediately to resolve, though we're making moves to try to figure out what that looks like in our reservoir. But generally, aging infrastructure is the sleeping demon in a lot of public resources, and water is no exception. I think from a labor perspective, it seemed like the H2A program was continues to grow and continues to be a boon for people in our industry and in our region. I think more and more people, I think at this point, almost everybody is pretty much exclusively H2A. Works with H2A contractors in our area. We did have a meeting earlier this year to talk about some of the regulatory changes that were coming, and had some presenters that really implored growers to not just go straight to H2A, and that there's large populations of people here that may actually be unfortunately difficult to hire, that really need work and really need stability, but because of their they're, because of how difficult it can be to hire them, they find themselves in a marginal position. So at least on our farm, we took that meeting to heart and we really did what we could to hire people locally, recognizing that, if we can support people in our community, it's a very meaningful thing to do. So the field crew remained all H2A, but anywhere else that we could hire folks locally, we did. So that's more or less the report, I think, from my area. Yeah, I'm but a husk at this moment. So I hope that report is adequate for everybody. So thank you.
Thank you, Harrison.
Simon, I'll be happy to go. This is Colleen. You want?
Thank you, Colleen.
Yeah. Well, once again, I apologize for not being over there. I had big plans on coming. I had plans on getting peaches from Harrison or whoever has peaches. Found out last night I have a pretty serious ear infection that's affecting the whole body. So it's probably that I did not make the trip, but my apologies again. What's going on around here? I did have a priority thing that I forgot about, something. And I think the reason why we're having trouble getting Nick purchase on is she's probably out in DC for the National Farmers Union fly-in. And something really exciting happened there. There was a MOU signed between USDA and the National Farmers Union for an agreement to strengthen the Farm Service Agency county level operations. And I think that's really good because it'll help with staff levels and improve customer service. And I think when USDA is successful, CDA is successful. So I think that was a really nice move. There's a nice picture of National Farmers Union President Rob LaRue and USDA Farm Service Agency Zach Ducheneau signing the MOU online. So, but like I said, when I think those agencies succeed, we succeed. And I know that'll be a positive thing for FSA as well. To piggyback off of what Bethany was talking about, I think it's really important that if we can as commissioners to make presentations and articles and those kind of things, and they are very helpful in creating. I have not created a PowerPoint in many years, and Bethany and Olga are doing a great job helping me out, getting ready for me to present next week to the National Association of Farmers Market Nutrition Program. They're having their conference here in Denver. So use their skills because they're great in making my mess look really good. So I'm excited to put that forward. What's going on around here? Wheat is being drilled. If not, we'll be in progress of doing that. Early beet harvest will start on Monday, and some silage is being cut. Places I've been this month, the State Fair for the Centennial Celebration. Congratulations to Nick and his family. And it was really nice and a really great feather in Deb Daniels' hat to be acknowledged as well that day. So then I attended the Commissioner's Graze, the legislative picnic, the rodeo, and the parade the next day. So State Fair looks great. Everything was going wonderful. And as usual, it was warm. Let's see. I attended the Northern Water East to West Slope Tour, which was put on Northern Water, Colorado here. What an amazing day. We started out in Loveland or in Berthoud, went all the way over to Grand Lake, saw all the projects that they are working on, and returned back the same day. So it was a great bus tour and being able to see all the projects that are being worked on by Northern Water. I also attended the Ukrainian Whistle Stop Tour, which is part of the German Marshall Fund of the United States and the Howard Buffett Foundation. And it was held out at the Delaney Community Farm. And our own Jordan Beasley was a moderator for that. And it was about an hour stop. They're making several stops across the United States. Howard Buffett, Heather Conley, which is the president of the German Marshall Fund for the United States, and then a representative from the Embassy of Ukraine. Her name was Catriona Smagley, I think was her name. But it was an hour of very interesting information. Mostly Mr. Buffett spoke about all the agricultural things that they're doing in the Ukraine and sharing that information. And they're going to, oh, it looks like about 10 states. So that was very interesting. As Kate said, Kent and I were very humbly honored at Colorado State University last weekend. We received the Lifetime Achievement Award for the Department of Agricultural and Resource Economics. And so that was a really nice plus. My whole family was here, so we had not seen each other since Christmas. We had not seen or gotten our family together since Christmas. So it just tells you what CSU can do. They can bring the family together. Then Ag Days was the next day, and that was a great celebration of all the Colorado commodities. And Colorado State had a win over UNC, and we're hoping for the same thing this weekend with a showdown against CU. As I said, I'm going to be speaking next week at the National Association of Farmers Market Nutrition Program, and I think I'm going to follow Roberto. I think he's doing the opening, so I have a hard act to follow, but that's next week. Once again, my apologies for not being there, and it's good to see you all.
Well, thank you, Colleen. We do have online, it looks like now. Michael, are you with us? Or is it? It's Patrick?
I see that Patrick is on, but I feel like Michael needs a couple more minutes.
Okay, we're
Get
good.
logged in.
All right,
so yeah, let's do another commissioner update.
Okay. Okay, can we have another commissioner update while they get their PowerPoint ready?
I can go next. Hi, everyone. Good to be with you all again today. Apologies for not being able to make it out there. It would have been great. I had a really amazing time last year, and I was looking forward to it again, but work and capacity were tight. I don't have a ton of updates, but I do want to just kind of mention that our school partnerships have really grown since school has come in session. Our most exciting, I guess, partnership right now is with Greeley. We just delivered about 6,000 pounds of local bison, and it was just an incredible opportunity, and really excited to see how that begins to motivate other school districts in supporting local Colorado Proud products. And Bethany, really excited to see how I can support with the Colorado Proud effort at schools. I think that'll be a really good opportunity just to showcase what's possible. I think there's still some, perhaps, maybe a sense of possibility for school districts that want to purchase local, and I think more and more are beginning to prove that this is something that can be a sustainable way to bring more local produce for our students. So yeah, I'd love to kind of see how we could collaborate on that. One thing that has been really great to see is a concerted effort across the U.S. and here in Colorado being led by Nourish Colorado to extend the Local Food Purchasing Assistance Cooperative Agreement, LFPA. It's set to sunset next year, and we know how important that was for a lot of producers, for really connecting the local food supply to families in need. And, the impact can't just be something that we stash away in a history book. I think it's something that needs to live and breathe with us and continue to be a mainstay for a lot of communities. So we're hoping that Secretary Vilsack will sign the extension of it, or USDA will embrace a permanent program. Nonetheless, I think that's also something that states can do, that states can provide for the communities. it was an incredible program that not only helped the food hubs, but also farmers in Colorado, and had a really important consequence on families as well. I think I also just want to uplift CDA's effort in stepping in to address food access at the intersection of local food and local procurement. Talking to a lot of farmers and a lot of kind of urban ag focused initiatives that address food insecurity, there's just kind of been this rolling back of financial support and programs. And I think it's impacting a lot of municipal agencies as well. I had a conversation with one last week about their food access efforts out here in Adams County. And it just seems like morale is really low in terms of how, we're coming out of this big push to support communities with access to fresh local food, and there wasn't enough scaffolding or infrastructure to continue a lot of this programming. So for CDA to step in and be creative by really doing an amazing job. I keep referencing the work that you all are doing with the Community Food Access Program to help not only the small food retailers, but also suppliers and distributors to have that holistic collective effort. I think that's a huge, important step in creating something that's sustainable. That's not just a food access program, that really gets to the root cause of a lot of our experiences with food insecurity. And so I want to see that evolve, and I want to see more state agencies come in to collaborate on things that they can do in a very similar structured manner. And yeah, excited, Colleen, also to share the stage with you next week and just kind of share what incredible levers of change farmers markets can be for nutrition incentive programs, and to, again, as another lever in addressing food insecurity and supporting local agriculture. And then my last shout out again to CDA. We had our organic inspector out for certification our first time, and Brad Speltz was so amazing, had so many stories, and it just felt like being in community, and felt much more of just getting to know more of our CDA staff than an actual inspection. I mean, he was thorough, not to devalue the time that he spent over there and the inspection itself, but it was just really great, and being able to connect with him on so many different things that are happening around the state, and his passion for organic certification and organic practices was really incredible to see. So those are my updates for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Roberto. Next. Okay, I guess I'll go next. Down in Southwest Colorado, we're, believe it or not, in about 4 weeks, the cattle herd are coming back to the farm. It's quick here. So we planted our triticale and getting ready for the return of some of the cattle October 15th. We are doing a test plot, 72 acres with Colorado Ag Water Alliance, CAWA, with some sandpoint, and I think we'll give it a good opportunity this year. It's uses less water, less bloating, might fit into the cattle program. We tried Kernza. I don't think it's meant for our area, but I think the sandpoint might be a good opportunity for us to move into that direction with the cattle operation. They've summered well. We haven't had to haul any water, and that's a good thing, because when you start hauling water to the high country, it becomes a lot of work that you don't want to do, but you have to. So on the ag end, we are going to be starting our 5th cutting of alfalfa next week. So that's unusual. So we'll cut hopefully all 2,600 acres that we have starting next week, weather permitting. We are planting new alfalfa right now and taking some out, about 600 acres in the next couple of weeks. And I think we're going to settle in at about 3,000 acres and no more 4,500 due to, we don't know what our water allocation is year by year, what's been happening the last 20 years. So it'll decrease our alfalfa Gives us an opportunity though to go into some other grains, oats or red winter wheat, which we did this year, and the bushel average wasn't too bad. It's about 100 bushel to the acre. So that was good. And then we'll be going back into red winter wheat here at the end of the month. On bow and arrow end, they're doing fine. We went to a new supplier out of Kentucky with our blue corn and our white corn seed. So that's been good for us because the last few years we were tied into a family operation in Muleshoe, Texas. But I think right now with the father-son duo in Kentucky being a non-GMO product, the yields seem to look really good. So it might give us an opportunity to go into more value-added blue corn production for other individuals or companies that we bought from them during the drought and COVID. So that might be an opportunity to go into another value-added blue corn market. On irrigation end, they're doing well. We were involved in an SCPP program this year through Bucket One, and it worked for us. We left a little over 2,000 acre-feet of water in the reservoir, but we're able to fallow or go into some small grains, which was oats. And then we can go back into another crop without having to do any field work or fuel usage on implements. So we're in the process now working with Senator Hickenlooper and Senator Bennett to have the program one more year through the SCPP program, because I think it helped us still get out of the 2021 drought. So if it comes out, it'll be out of the Bucket Two program. So we left some fallow and some into a small oat grain, which worked for us. So that worked. Other than that, we're just getting ready to hopefully have a good corn harvest come November 1. We'll finish our alfalfa planting as we do now and then get ready for the cattle to come home. They weren't gone very long, but I'd like to see moving forward that if we don't leave a couple hundred pair at the farm all year round, because we do have about 650 pair that go to the high country, and trucking is an issue as far as cost. So we can get to a point on the farm that we can go with the teft grass or something that'll be more beneficial to us with the 100-degree weather in the 3 or 4 months that they are in the high country, and start a program where we can maybe start leaving some of the cattle on site and not have that cost to get them to permit ground or into the Gunnison area where we have a few hundred pair that go that far. So that's something we're working on moving forward. So that's my spiel there. Anybody else?
I can go, Simon.
Nick.
So I guess it's been mentioned a couple of times here. The definite highlight of our month was the Centennial Farm Award. That was an amazing event. Thanks to History Colorado and CDA for making that event so special. I had no idea that it was as a big a deal as they made it. I mean, I don't know how many total people were there, but I would guess a couple hundred, maybe somewhere in there. So it was quite the deal. We managed to get 3 generations there. So that was a lot like herding cats at times, but I think it was great for some of the younger generations to really honor my dad and honor our history. And we had a lot of time to really tell stories and teach the younger generations about some of the spoken history or the verbal history. And I think they all have a new appreciation for the ranch and a lot of the struggles that the generations before us went through. So I know I certainly do now. And my dad, he really enjoyed his 15 minutes of fame. And I think oftentimes in agriculture, it's a thankless job, and events like that are pretty special to recognize the time and how big of a deal it is to hold a family operation together like that. So thank you, CDA staff. Got to see a lot of you there, and thank you all for making that such a special event, and really appreciate it. And I'm glad CDA is involved with that with History Colorado. Let's see. Around here, we're starting fall work. We're weaning a little early because we are pretty dry down here. Not as bad as some areas of the state, but we are in D2, and I would suspect we're probably gonna roll over to D3 drought here at some point. Getting a little late for any Hail Mary rainfall events to grow any grass. So we've pretty much, what we've grown so far is what we're going to have to work with over the winter. So we're going to do some early weaning and look for places to adjust our stocking rate. I think that's fall work. We're going to be running around like crazy for the next 2 months, just weaning and preg testing and all the normal ranching stuff. I did want to mention, Harrison, I appreciate you bringing up that Denver Post article. I'm kind of ignorant to it. I haven't read it yet, but I'm look forward to digging into it. And just wanted to say, I'm kind of preaching to the choir here, but man, it seems like agriculture is under attack in so many different, everywhere you look, there's some propaganda that all the facts aren't presented correctly, and it's pretty frustrating. And I certainly heard the frustration in your voice, Harrison. And I guess I just wanted to say, I know we have to be careful in CDA about getting involved in stuff like that, but I do think it is important that we make sure that articles like that they do have the facts in their hands. I don't think we can get involved in the debate or anything else, but I think where we can really make a difference is make sure that articles like that have the facts. Whether they choose to use them or not is not up to, or we can't really have any influence on that. But if we can, the more we can do to put those success stories in front of them, hopefully they'll use them. So, and not that we're doing a bad job or anything like that, but Harrison, thank you for bringing that up. And there's a multitude of other issues going on right now that there's just a lot of propaganda that doesn't put agriculture in a real paint a good picture for agriculture. So anyway, thank you for bringing that up, Paris. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Nick. Elena? Hello.
Hey everyone, I'm so bummed I couldn't be there. I thought I could, but things just got a little hectic over here. So yeah, I hope everyone's having fun, and it looks like you had some fun field tours yesterday that looked like they would have been really interesting. So yeah, so I just got back from the Salida Fiber Festival. That's a really fun event, and lots of producers there. And it's just a fun way to kind of interface with the public and talk about what we're doing on the farm, and make some money too. And then next month is the Santa Fe, which used to be the Taos Wool Festival. Unfortunately, they had some issues, so they had moved to Santa Fe. But that one will be fun because they have like sheep shearing and they have a bunch of demos, and it's a lot more of like that, the farm side of things. So looking forward to that. I just was talking with I had to go through a different conservation district through the STAR program, and they just really like the program and they're really excited about it. They said the CDA was really easy to work with, and they made it really easy for ranchers to come up with the amount that they needed for the STAR program. So it was just really cool. The one thing they did say was that they thought it was a little bit odd that the due date is I think it's in September, just because a lot of farmers haven't finished like applying fall applying manure or compost or whatever they're working on. But other than that, they just said the CDA was really fun and good to work with, and producers were really happy. So yeah. And then so I think that it continues to be like a major challenge, processors for meat production, at least in our area. Like just so many people are in and out, and we've lost like a lot of the custom, well, several of the custom processors in our area are not doing USDA anymore just because it's too much of a headache. And Greener Pastures, which is the processor up in Canyon City, closed effective immediately in August, and basically left I was one of their customers, all of their customers high and dry. So we've just been scrambling. I'm not the only one scrambling to try to find another USDA processor. And I finally was able to work with West Cliff Meats, but it was just such a fiasco because they changed the date that I needed to get them like 3 times. And it was just, I don't know. I'm not nothing against West Cliff Meat because they were fitting me in, because basically I had to like, you know, a lot of these scheduling, you have to do like a year in advance. And I was calling last minute, like, please, please, please get me in there just because of Greener Pastures closing. And so, yeah, definitely an added stress for producers who are trying to like get a product to the customer. So I think a lot of the people I talk to, the processors here, just say that USDA is really tough and it becomes really expensive because you have to pay for the inspector to be there. And if anything happens, like a producer's late or something goes wrong, that just really hurts the bottom line for the processor. So I know there's been some talk about maybe some different systems, but everyone who isn't USDA and works with the state always just has really great things to say. So I think it's definitely has been a challenge for a lot of producers and a big expense on having the USDA inspection and stuff. And it really does, like I said, it hurts producers so much because a lot of people just don't even want to do USDA just because they're like, I'm just going to sell off my farm and I'm not going to bother with this. But what do you do? How do you work with some of these other bigger distributors? Like the lambs that I was trying to get in were for the food hub. And so I think definitely some challenges there. And I'm not sure what the issues were that the processor in Canyon City came up with, but sounded like they were like, I don't know. I've never seen a butcher close effective immediately. Like I had lambs butchered for the next week and they were just like, no, we're not doing, that's it. Tomorrow we're closed and that's it. So yeah. And what else? It's kind of late. Everyone's late because first cutting got so much rain on it. So barely people are starting their third and starting to wrap up for the season, and looks like it might freeze. I don't know when, but sometime soon. And yeah, it continued to be dry. The rest of there was rain, but it just didn't quite turn the river back on and stuff like that. But I think people are grateful at least that we got some rain, because otherwise it would have been I think we started out pretty bad. So the rain really saved us through the summer. So yeah, that's all I have. Thank you so much. And I wish I could be there. Maybe for the November one.
Thank you, Elena. David, are you on? We'll wrap up with you.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, just a second here. I want to throw some action on this. If I can make this. Okay, guys, sorry. Actually, I'm apologizing too. I was planning on making it to a meeting, but everything's happening at once here. We're getting into silage, and we're actually doing beans, and we're doing a little bit of Hershey. We're planting our wheat as we speak. We are supposed to start sugar beets. Oops. Somebody asking me something?
Oh, David, I just said nice product placement.
Yes, I was going to say I'm actually packing silage as we speak, so that's what you'll see. I'll try to hold the phone steady, but I'm actually in action here. So, but yeah, and we're also supposed to start sugar beets Friday, so there'll be quite a few things happening at once. Wet corn's just right behind that. As y'all know, we've had a lot of hail this year, things like that. So some of the crops are kind of dying off, maturing early. So that's what's kind of happening in silage here. Most of the most damaged crops are going into pits if they can be fed to the cattle. They won't make very good grain. So we're doing that, and then that's what's probably going to happen with sugar beets too. Some of the worst fields are going to be harvested first, and we'll go there. So we don't really have any yields yet per se. Spotty rains all summer. If we did have some, a lot of places that didn't get hail yet still have yet to receive rains. So as Nick said, there's a lot of things going on down here too. There's some early weanings going on, things like that for the cows. A lot of the sale barns that I've mentioned in the past previous meetings haven't even shut down for summer. They went ahead and had their weekly schedules because there has been a lot of cattle going to town, so to speak, or to market. I guess that'll probably do it on the crop side. Yeah, I was fortunate to be able to go down to State Fair, visit with a lot of fellow producers, junior exhibitors, and was also able to attend the Centennial Deal. Again, congratulations, Nick, and the rest of the people of Colorado that were able to celebrate their. Excuse me here, I'll try to shut that off. There we go. That were able to celebrate their 100th in their family farms and businesses. That was an awesome, as Nick said, that was an awesome venue. Glad to see that. Got to see a lot of people there. Also attended the Commissioner's Graze. That was an awesome program there as well. So also got to watch the hog show and the beef show, and had some pretty good quality animals there in the shows at the State Fair. And then also got to attend the rodeo and a concert that evening. Is a lot of fun there. So let's see. I know I'm missing something else. Oh, actually, I got on the Zoom call yesterday with the BAP. That was interesting to get on with those groups and fellow CDA member or staff, and listen to that as well. Let's see. Other than that, just personal note, just a lot of things going with the fair board and things like that, trying to get ready for next year. All these fairs and things like that. The economy, I guess, going to the ag sector side, do want to mention I've talked to quite a few people this morning and even yesterday evening after the presidential debate. Seems like there wasn't even anything mentioned in general about ag. We hate to see that. We keep hearing rumors that hopefully the interest rates will be dropped this month. I guess we'll see that in the next week or two when the feds do meet. We definitely need to see those things with the input costs being as high as they are. Things just really are not going down, other than the fuels, things like that. A lot of the inputs are still pretty high. So even the cattle prices have slipped in the last 2 or 3 weeks. So we're kind of sorry to hear that as well. They were one of the bright spots on the ag commodities, and they're still decent, but they have slipped in their prices quite a bit. So be interesting to see how the fall turns out here with that mind too. So I think that's it for me, unless anybody has any questions. Hopefully a little silage packing video in the background. Thanks.
Thank you, David. Okay, we'll try once again with Michael and Patrick.
Simon, I was actually wondering if Dr. Minas could go first.
Yes.
He did join us quite a bit earlier. And so I just want to make sure that we're respecting his time.
Okay. We'll move into, for now, the CSU Specialty Crop Block Grant. Dr. Minas. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for the invitation and the opportunity to present our research that has been done with the tremendous support of this fantastic program. the specialty crop block grant managed under your commission. So I will share my screen and let me know if you are able to see.
Yes, we can see it.
Perfect. So for the people that don't know me, I was born and raised in a peach orchard located in this beautiful valley in northern Greece. So this picture, you see bloom time, which for everyone is the time of hope. However, it's also the time peach growers are in extreme stress because of the high risk for frost and crop loss. This was something that I never liked from my childhood, mainly because of lack of control over this, and was partially the reason to look for a career in academia and probably the background behind my research program. The other reason that I sought an academic position and not become a third-generation peach farmer was the peach fuzz that I couldn't tolerate during harvest. So I decided I will become a peach professor. Yeah, I cannot tolerate peach fuzz, but I love peaches. Since 2015, I have been working with CSU, an agriculture experiment station, and also local regional extension in a valley that reminds my homeland. And you can see the beautiful peach valley that we have in Central Valley in Palisade. So I have been working with a unique industry that is known for the high quality peaches that receive the highest premium price in the nation. However, our industry, like any other locations that perennial fruit trees are grown, is affected by the changing environment. Climate resiliency in fruit trees is challenged by early springs and late frost. And in the picture, you can see the result of an extreme freezing event in mid-April 4 years ago. This single event caused more than 90% crop loss to our industry. And that was not enough for our growers because in the same year, they experienced an extended summer with warm temperatures, continuing into the fall, followed by a rapid cold snap when the trees were still green, were not acclimated yet. So right after, we observed extensive damage in the fruiting shoots that also increased the risk for secondary disease infections like Cytospora canker in peaches or bacterial canker in cherries. And the following spring, we observed loss of scaffolds, whole trees, young orchards all around the state. So a fair question for someone to ask is, can we predict or mitigate this, which is the major limiting factor for our peach production? Climate resiliency of fruit trees is further challenged by seasonal and unpredictable inconsistencies in fruit harvest time and quality. Weather-based predictions alone have failed to inform planning decisions for horticultural management, like spraying or other thinning or other practices that the growers are doing, as well as labor planning and sales planning. One other question I'm trying to answer through my research is, can we use fruit data in order to have robust predictions of harvest time and improve our quality through our better management in the orchard? And if yes, how easily we can incorporate them in our models? So since 2016, we have been working on developing technology that can provide reliable and large-scale cold hardiness data. The system that we have optimized through CDA support and we have validated is called differential thermal analysis that is using a programmable freezer. We have that in the research station in Orchard Mesa that is using ceramic thermocouples that convert the heat of fusion during floral bud freezing event to electric signal. So we can collect this way high resolution data on the actual temperature that peach floral buds are freezing. So this system has helped us through this high resolution data to develop a very strong outreach program through our CSU Pomology website. We are informing the growers with the current status of cold hardiness with regular updates, and with the development of robust cold hardiness models, we are about to provide this information 24/7 online for free through CDA support of this program. This is a current program that we are running, and I'm expecting by the end of this of November, we will have it available for free so the growers can see real time their estimated cold hardiness status, how much cold they can tolerate before they start losing floral buds and potential crop for next year. This is being led by my student. Also, this program, I want to highlight how important is, except of the readily available information that we generate for our industry, we are able to maintain talent working in our region and develop agricultural professionals that are taking leadership now in our research programs and working with extension or agricultural experiment station. We are also utilizing this system to evaluate different cultivars during the different phases of dormancy. So we collect large-scale data to help identify varieties that should be of interest of our growers. We are also evaluating horticultural management tools that could speed up acclimation in fall. So we will put the trees into a dormant mode and skip any extreme freezing event in the fall, like with the use of ABA, abscisic acid. In the picture that you see, the trees are showing extreme yellow after the application of this organically certified product. And also delay bloom time in spring, like with the use of FFON, so we can skip freezing events also when they're happening during spring. So we are focusing in both phases that are critical for our industry in fall and spring. We are also, through this program, we are also trying to develop efficient cropping systems for our industry. And this is an example of research that we did from 2020 to 2022 with training systems. We are testing different designs of peach tree canopy in order to see what kind of training system might be a better fit for our industry. So we have been using these trials and this project to educate our growers with how they can train different pruning systems through workshops every year, couple of workshops and participation with talks to the Western Colorado Horticultural Society. And through this project that was funded with CDA, we came up with new concepts of how we can see the peach orchard for the future. So we are seeing high demand for Colorado peaches over the last many years. But the problem we have is our land is very limited when it comes to land that is suitable for fruit production. So we need efficient cropping systems to switch from traditional low density peach orchards that have a 3-dimensional canopy to modern high density 2-dimensional canopies that can provide efficient management, potential for mechanization, uniform quality, bring the yields much earlier in the lifespan of the orchard, and also provide higher yields. So we have been testing different canopy designs. You can see here our student working in the station through the summer pruning fruit wall that can be developed with either 1 leader or a couple of leaders or multi-leaders. So we are testing different vigor rootstocks or different horticulture management of the trees in order to develop a fine, balanced fruit wall that potentially the growers will be interested on if they want to increase their productivity in the given land that we have available for fruit production. In addition, we have been working for the last 7 seasons on the development of robust, non-destructive technologies to estimate internal fruit quality and maturity ahead of time with a single scan. This has been also supported from CDA. We use CDA support in order to expand our prediction models to multiple cultivars so we can assess non-destructively the quality potential of the fruit and also the maturation status of the fruit. And why this is important for the growers, because using this data, we are developing algorithms that can combine the fruit scan data and also weather data to predict harvest time. Why this is important? We have been seeing over the last couple of years, for example, last year, the season was 2 weeks, 10 days to 2 weeks behind. This year, the season was 10 days earlier. So our growers are targeting direct sales, and they want to have information ahead of time to plan their sales, but also to manage their labor. So labor is becoming more and more limited. So we need to develop tools that can make efficient decision support for the growers. So through this work, there is a spin-off that was developed from CSU Incubator that is called Excelsior. It's going to be a system that is a real-time Internet of Things analytics using the sensor and providing data analytics to the growers anywhere they are by just using some scans. And the system can provide them data analytics based on their weather, progress in the season, and also the status of the fruit regarding where they are in terms of maturity and quality. So through the incubator in 2023, we launched a pilot with 5 pioneer Peach Colorado growers that are seeking how they can incorporate, and really this is helpful for us that we have such a support also from the local industry. They are trying to optimize their processes and always maintain their quality for the customers. So through this pilot, we cover with the growers that participated. I think there's some members of the commission that are also among them. Harrison, for example, great support and great operation. We cover more than 40% of the commercial fruit production, 30 peach varieties located in 40 orchards. In 2024, we further expanded our program. This is a almost fully automated system that the grower is receiving a sensor. They scan 40 to 50 fruits at specific times that our system tells them based on weather. And immediately they receive a report on what is going to be their quality and what is going to be their projected harvest window ahead of time. This is an example of the report that has been generated. So our intention is to provide accurate sensing data to inform pick, buy, and sell decisions for our industry. The last project that I received support and I'm excited working about that is since we have upgraded facilities here in Fort Collins, and I can do also post-harvest research. There is not so much need for post-harvest research for our peaches because they are sold really quickly. But there is some years that we have oversupply when we don't have too much freezing during spring, like 2019, and growers may have trouble on storing the fruit in order to push them a little bit later to extend their marketing season. So we have been testing different technologies on how we can store safely peaches without the risk of developing mealy texture. I guess every one of you have experienced some bad grocery store peaches that you are excited. They all look great outside, but when you consume them, they become mealy. So we have been using hypobaric atmosphere technology. And this is a current project that we are working with my students and collaborators to provide a solution for the Colorado peach industry. So we are using these chambers that are plugged to a vacuum. The vacuum is creating very low pressure and is also monitoring the levels of oxygen and carbon dioxide. And you can see the setting here in that video. We have a really cool facility here in Fort Collins for post-harvest research. And I'm glad that CDA is supporting that. So we can have, that's the system. So of course, someone may ask, is this a solution for our local small farm industry? I don't think so. But we are learning so many things by doing this research. For example, we were able to store the fruit for up to 6 weeks using this chamber without having any problems of chilling injury development. So with the standard cold room, we cannot store the fruit more than 2 weeks. So this is a very important results. And through this research, we are incorporating different techniques in order to move to a bigger container style application that we can make a treatment in the fruit so the fruit can be stored without the heavy logistics of these hypobaric chambers. So I will be open to receive any questions. I would like to thank the Commission for this continued support. Has been great success for me personal, but also it's really good to have this kind of support for our local industry. You know, we are competing with states that have very strong industries, and most of the researchers like me receive direct industry support. I have received maybe a 10,000 donation from the Western Colorado Hort Society when I started my program. But in order to pursue all this research, we need funding. We need to have a solid program to provide relevant research results from our weather locations from our climate, because most of the things that have been developed in California do not apply for Colorado industry. So having a local strong research program for such an important specialty crop, it's really critical. So I will be able to receive any questions you may have, or as you wish.
Hey, sir, this is David Block. Did I understand you to say that there's Cercospora in peaches too? I was just curious. That's
so the most important challenge peaches have is cold. The second most important challenge we have is Cytospora. Why we have Cytospora canker in our orchards? It's because we get cold damage. So the tree is being hurt by cold, and Cytospora as a secondary pathogen can penetrate to these little injuries that are being caused on the bark of the tree and silently and slowly progressing in order to collapse the tree. Yes, Cytospora is the major disease that we are dealing with. Due to our weather, we have very nice winters. Like when it's not extreme fall freeze, the rest of the winter is pretty nice because we satisfy the needs of the tree with enough chilling. So, and also cleans up most of the pests. But the major disease we have here, which is not important anywhere else, is Cytospora. So after doing all this research for so many years and collaborating with phytopathologists from my college, my conclusion is that the main reason we are getting Cytospora is cold damage. So if we can have a better physiology of the tree, we are in a fall like this, like super hot, and we don't get an early freezing signal to make the tree go to sleep, we're gonna get cold damage, in October. Usually we get an early freezing event, not so extreme. The trees start becoming yellow and they go to dormancy. But in some cases, like the one that I showed you in 2020, we got this under freezing event, and guess what happened the next year? So we had declining trees, and then Cytospora took over.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Dr. Minas at this time?
I'd just like to show my support for Giannis. We really do have a relatively small industry here. I think we have a very well organized industry here, which is really nice and has created an outsized opportunity for us. But the work that Giannis has done and the work that the Horticulture Society does and the ability to attract funding for projects it really is just amazing. I joke that, for the size of our industry, we've got twice as much support as any other grower in the state because of the experiment stations, because of Giannis.
And because of I want to not because I'm in this meeting, I want to emphasize, if we didn't have the specialty crop block grant, I won't be able to do any of that. Maybe a little bit. And I will be under a lot of pressure and stress without students, because students are expensive. So this is very key for this small industry, but unique industry to maintain. That's my last thing. And I'm really glad working with Harrison, even at the Hort Society, even with his participation in our events, and also his participation on the tech that we are developing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm going to lean on the soil health program. Do we want to do it now during lunch or address something?
Yeah, they're going to be in person. They're on their way. They would join us for lunch and be here in person.
Okay. Now, lunch is available. We also have the grasshopper presentation if we want to go ahead and follow through with that. And then we can go into our lunch break. Okay. Michael, okay, there you are.
Yeah, I apologize for not being on earlier. I thought I got moved to 12:55, so sorry about that.
Thank you. Go ahead and get you in early today.
All right. Well, let me try and share here.
I have your attention, please. The AV system will shut down in 2 minutes. Press the touch panel to reset the inactivity timer.
Yes. We just talked about that here last time. Everything's talking to us.
It's there.
Can you see my screen?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm Mike Winks with USDA APHIS PPQ. I'm a plant health safeguarding specialist in Colorado. So this presentation is on rangeline grasshoppers. I'm the team lead for our grasshopper and Mormon cricket program. This is just an overview of where my department fits into USDA APHIS. Many of you have probably heard of APHIS, but there are several specific programs within APHIS. Animal care deals with humane treatment of animals. Biotechnology regulatory services regulates genetically modified organisms. Wildlife Services deals with human-wildlife conflicts. Veterinary Services works primarily with foreign animals and diseases. And I work for Plant Protection and Quarantine. PPQ has many different programs. Some examples include closing pathways for foreign pests and diseases, exotic pest surveys, quarantine and eradication of pests, biological control, facilitating safe trade, and the grasshopper and murmur cricket program, which is the only program within PPQ that deals with native pests. Today, we're going to cover grasshoppers, their biology, how we survey and treat them. We'll then finish up with some information on murmur crickets and our current survey status. There are about 108 species of grasshoppers in Colorado. More than 400 are in the western U.S. 14 to 16 are considered pests. There's a few beneficial grasshoppers. For example, the snakeweed grasshopper eats snakeweed. And then the remainder normally have minimal to no economic impact. Here's the grasshopper life cycle, starting with eggs hatching in spring, progressing through the nymphal instars to adults, and then laying eggs. Grasshoppers go through 5 nymphal life stages called instars. When they go from one instar to another, they shed their exoskeleton. They then increase to a larger size, and their exoskeleton hardens up, and then they go back to eating. This is important when we start talking about the various pesticides that are available to us. It takes about a week to complete each instar, and eventually they become adults. They mate as adults, lay eggs, and the process starts all over again. This is a diagram of identifying grasshopper instars based on the wing pads. As they develop, the wing pads get larger and more defined. Adults generally have fully developed wings. This is important to know for treatments with our preferred pesticide that we'll discuss later. So how big is a first instar grasshopper? It's about as small as a grain of rice or smaller. They're very tiny and hard to seed, but this is when you really need to start looking for them. For grasshopper biology, there's generally 1 generation per year. The duration of the nymphal stages is 30 to 40 days, approximately 1 week per instar. The duration of adult life is 40 to 60 days. Egg laying is mostly in the fall, or in the soil, excuse me. There's 1 to 4 egg pods per female and 4 to 80 eggs per egg pod. As far as seasonal development goes, typically they hatch out in spring, mostly May and early June, but it's weather dependent. Nymphs and adults develop throughout the summer, and then they overwinter as eggs. But there are some species that overwinter as late instar nymphs, and that's typically what you'd see adults early in the season in the spring and early summer. Those are mostly bandwing species. So PPQ's role in grasshopper management, we do surveys, 2 rounds of survey. We provide technical assistance. We do site visits and provide treatment options. And then treatments if funding is available. We have a cost shared suppression program, suppression program. For the nymphal survey, the purpose is to determine the densities, the species composition, the age, the instars, and the scale, how widespread the infestation is. The nymphal survey starts early. We normally start mid-May to July, early to mid-May, and then we go till July 15th. We do a 5-mile grid on rangeland. Our goal is to find populations before they reach the 3rd instar while they're still treatable with our preferred insecticide and they haven't reproduced and laid eggs. Landowners can request survey that we will prioritize. And then known problem areas are also a priority during the nymphal survey. The second round of survey is the adult survey from July 16th until at the latest September 15th. Our goal is to identify areas where grasshoppers may be a problem next year. Again, we do a 5-mile grid. We identify species complexes at certain sites, and we produce a hazard map, which is basically a prediction or forecasting map for the next season. And we also provide data for trend analysis. This is the procedure for actually conducting the survey if anyone is interested. It gives you grasshoppers per square yard. It's not exact, but it gives you a good idea on the density. I believe this presentation will be shared after this meeting, so you'll have the procedure. Surveys are just a snapshot in time. lots of things can happen after we survey an area. Private treatments, weather events, increased predation could all affect grasshopper populations. Also, not every mile is surveyed. We could miss some hot spots, and surveys are only on rangeland. You need to start looking for grasshoppers early in the springtime when it's warm enough to start hatching. A good rule of thumb is when lilacs start to bloom, it has usually been warm enough for grasshoppers to hatch out. We also provide technical assistance, which includes going to a landowner's property and doing density counts, species identification, determining instars, economic thresholds, and other treatment recommendations. We could also participate by contracting doing treatments. USDA aerial suppression treatments are typically large-scale aerial treatments of damaging densities. They're normally larger than 10,000 acres. That's kind of the PPQ rule of thumb. And there's varied treatment strategies that we'll cover in a bit. Since 2002, APHIS has developed more environmentally sound practices. The availability of diflubenzuron has helped, and the use of rats, which we'll talk about in a bit. With the advancement of GPS systems, we can use smaller planes so applicators can fly independently rather than in tandem, and allows for more accurate application. We prefer the reduced agent and area treatment strategy. It's basically skip swathing. The reduced area part of rats means they'll leave some of the area untreated. Generally every other swath. Grasshoppers are very mobile, rely on them to move around through an environment, eventually to come in contact with and ingest the pesticide in a treated swath. While that's happening, predators continue to enjoy feeding on hoppers. This diagram shows conventional treatments versus rats. Conventional application overlaps a little on the outside of each swath to ensure consistent coverage. That's not needed with rats, and we intentionally leave untreated areas in between swaths. This is just another depiction of how about half the area is actually treated. For rats treatments, how much we leave untreated depends on how long the pesticide lasts. For example, since malathion has a lower residual, we would do about 80% coverage. For carbaryl and diflubenzuron, we would do 50% coverage since they have longer residuals. And then PPQ's options for chemical control. Our 2019 programmatic environmental impact statement assessed and approved these 4 products for PPQ use to suppress rangeland grasshoppers. Many of you are likely familiar with some of these, and we'll talk about them briefly. Malathion, it only lasts 3 to 5 days and it's gone. It's been around for a long time. It affects the nervous system of grasshoppers and other non-target arthropods. It's been used for PPQ for many years, and we don't expect it to be used, but it is an option. Carbaryl lasts a couple weeks, making it a little better for subsequent hatches. It works on all stages of grasshoppers by affecting the nervous system, kind of like malathion. It's a liquid, but can also be formulated into baits. Chlorantraniliprole is the newest chemical to our program, although PPQ has not used it on a broad scale to my knowledge. My understanding is that the cost due to formulation and actual cost is too high for rangeland, so we probably wouldn't use it. And this comes to our preferred chemical for APHIS, diflubenzuron. It's relatively safe, has a long residual, so it works good with rats treatments. It has reliable results and a wide temperature range. Timing is very important. You have to treat them early with diflubenzuron. It kills by ingestion only, not contact, and it possibly could harm aquatic invertebrates, but we do buffers for that. And also cost is a pro for diflubenzuron. It's a chitin inhibitor, so the grasshoppers can't molt and then they die. It doesn't kill as quickly as carbaryl and malathion since they need to develop to the molting stage and die. This diagram depicts the timing. It's it's recommended. Diflubenzuron's recommended for early NSTARS, first up to fourth. It isn't effective on adults, so you don't want to treat when the grasshoppers are in the late NSTARS and too close to becoming adults. For the products we can use, here are the conventional rangeland rates of the active ingredient. I didn't include chlorantraniliprole since we don't plan on using it. On one note, the label rates are often higher than what APHIS uses for our treatment programs. The reduced agent part of RATS cuts the rate of malathion carbaryl in half. It reduces the percentage of carbaryl bait from 5 to 2%, and it cuts diflubenzuron from 1 ounce to 3/4 of an ounce. And then there's other good chemicals out there. We recommend you contact your local contractors for suggestions for chemicals besides what's available in PPQ managed programs. Our rangeland treatment strategy is typically using diflubenzuron, using modified RATS. The modified part is that we'd use 1 ounce of diflubenzuron and still skip swathing instead of the 3/4 of an ounce. There's multiple different formulations that you can use for diflubenzuron. There's a couple here. The 13-ounce formulation is preferred by Wyoming, who's done quite a few large-scale treatments, PPQ in Wyoming. And then the 31-ounce formulation is preferred by PPQ in Montana. I think if we were involved in a treatment in Colorado, we'd use the 13-ounce per acre formulation. It's been proven to be very effective. The lower volume allows for aircraft to stay in the air longer, improving efficiency and lowering costs. For PPQ run treatments, that's where PPQ contracts and supervise the application of the chemical. It's based on available funding. The only way to participate is in a PPQ cost share. We'd pay 100% on federal land, 50% on state, and 33% on private. And here's the situations that could warrant conducting a USDA control program. A rangeland block with over 10,000 acres is the most likely scenario. There's also a crop protection program where federal land could be treated to protect neighboring crop. And there's also hotspot treatments are used in some states for mainly for Mormon cricket treatments. It's not likely in Colorado since we don't have the equipment, and the strategy doesn't have a widespread impact. So the larger rangeland block programs are the most likely programs that we'd be involved in. USDA programs are limited to mostly rangeland for the majority of the treatment area. Up to 10 to 20% could be crop, but the pesticide needs to be labeled for it, and there's no cost share on crops. Sorry about that. There's also many environmental restrictions. Specifically, we need to do an environmental assessment for an area that would be treated federally. We currently have EA, the environmental assessment, that's valid for the next 3 years from Moffat, Rio Blanco, and Routt counties. That was generated because of the Mormon cricket problems. We would need to complete an EA for the Eastern Plains if federal treatments were planned. There's also buffers that we need to adhere to, beehives, water, and others. And another note, there's recently been a lawsuit against APHIS that we lost, but the remedy is yet to be determined, so we're not sure what the impacts on the program will be yet. Here's triggers and situations for PPQ run programs. For many years, it is thought that if there are more than 8 grasshoppers per square yard, that was the treatment threshold on rangeland. APHIS most recently suggests that grasshoppers in the teens, 15 or more grasshoppers per square yard would justify suppression actions, especially with nymphs. The pest species would need to be, the predominant species would need to be a pest species. We'd need to do those environmental documents. Landowners and land manager requests would need to be in place. Detailed work plan would need to be developed by PPQ. cooperative agreement would need to be done with the rancher group for funding, and we need to do the contracting with the aerial applicators. So there's a lot of costs associated with PPQ programs: application costs, chemical, travel, seasonal salary, overtime, supplies, mileage. And there's also an overhead charge of 16.15% for monies collected on the landowner's share. So with all the additional costs, if there's only private land involved in a treatment, the landowner can usually do the treatments cheaper without our involvement. But if there's federal land mixed in the program, since APHIS pays 100%, then APHIS treatments are more advantageous, especially to adjacent landowners. This slide compares a PPQ run program to private programs. For both, we do surveys and technical assistance. The advantage for the PPQ, of course, is that we'd pay 100% on federal lands. But for private, additional advantages are they're quicker, they have smaller buffers, less restrictive, and like I said, probably cheaper. Here's our current survey maps as of last Friday. This is our NIMFL map that we finished on July 15th. The colors, red is 15 or more. Yellow is 8 to 14. This is all grasshoppers per square yard, so those are the higher densities, and it goes down from there. We saw higher populations of Eastern Plains during the NIMFL survey, with relatively low populations out west. Our NIMFL survey is usually less thorough than the adult survey, since we're responding to requests and have to do some other work that takes up time. And then here's our adult survey map. As you can see, it's more thorough than the NIMFL. We saw high populations in the Northeast, but are not quite as bad in the Southeast as they were in the NIMFL survey. Again, there's relatively low numbers in the West. We expect populations on Eastern plants to be high on next season, unless hopefully Mother Nature takes care of them. So we're just finishing up the survey this week, so some of the holes will be filled in, but this will be the last week of survey. And then Mormon cricket. I just wanted to include some information on Mormon crickets, since they're also a problem in Colorado. They're a widespread issue in Moffat and Rio Blanco counties. We started seeing Mormon crickets again in 2020, and populations have gotten progressively worse each year. Prior to 2020, they weren't an issue for almost 20 years. So they're mainly a crop and nuisance pest. They're a safety issue on roads. We expect to potentially have cricket treatments next season. If funding is available, we use the same chemical and program as grasshopper. Diflubenzuron is still our preferred chemical for Mormon cricket, but carbobate also works well. With crickets, they hatch earlier than grasshoppers. We started hearing reports in March this past season. We also planned cricket treatments this spring, but the funding came through too late and the crickets were moving too much, so we weren't able to treat. Crickets have 7 instars. Once they get around to the 5th instar, they get quite mobile, which makes it difficult to contract out a program. They might not be there by the time the contract gets awarded. So hopefully we'll have funding earlier next season so we can move forward with those treatments. Here's our Mormon cricket presence map. They're mostly in southern Moffat and northern Rio Blanco. We occasionally see them in southeast Colorado, but not in high numbers. Most recently was two years ago down in Pueblo County. And there's a little more detailed view, but we expect to have cricket problems again in those 2 counties next season. So here's my contact information, and also the state plant health director here, my boss, Patrick McFerrin, if you have questions. And I also wanted to thank PPQ Wyoming and Montana for contributing to this presentation. And I can take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Looks like there's a question up.
Yeah, we have a question from a member of the public, Nicole Dodaro. She wants to thank you for your presentation first and wants to know if someone at APHIS, either you or someone else, has any helpful information about grasshopper control methods on cropland.
Yeah, I don't know any details about cropland. I apologize. Our program is just for rangeland.
The resource would be available on CSU extension in their counties.
Right.
The species, they know, what really is effective in their area. So I would recommend them to reach out to CSU extension.
Thanks, Wonderad.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask you a question? I would like to ask if there's a high population of grasshoppers in a certain year, in a certain area, what factors influence the size, the potential for the size of the population the following year?
Yeah, if conditions are good, so we don't have a hard winter, real cold temperatures with a low snowpack, that could kill eggs. If there's good survival of eggs, the populations could definitely increase. Like a cool wet spring, if the grasshoppers hatch out and their first, second instar, and you get a big weather event, cold weather, wet weather, it can really cause some damage to them and really knock back the populations.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
This is David Block. I'm actually out in some of those red areas you have on the northeast Colorado map. It seems like we're really struggling out here with the populations. In some of those instances, we're seeing 80 to 90 grasshoppers per square yard. Not all neighbors, farmers, or ranchers are controlling or trying to suppress them. So it's really hard on the ag producers that are trying, because I don't know if you mentioned, and maybe you did, I apologize. I'm also back in silage here as we go. So I'm mostly listening, but I'm able to look at your screens once in a while, but I don't know the mobility of a grasshopper, how far it can travel. But we have those issues as well. So I guess, and then when we talk to our extension, they say there's nothing they can do. I would like to see more. I don't know where we need to go with it, but I'd like to see more. You guys are doing your surveys and things, which is very good. And I also, I believe I visited with Mike early on in the spring, and they came out to some of our areas to do the surveys. Or one of the employees came out. But I guess where I'm getting at is, I think we need to either train the extension more or things like that to utilize some of these programs that possibly could be out there. And we also need to educate the producers that aren't trying to suppress the grasshoppers, because that's way beyond economic proportions. And as you had another question there on the crops, I think that's also a very large concern with many of us as crop producers as well as ranchers, because they do come off the rangeland in droves, and especially in the drought conditions, and they do much damage to the crops and come into the cropland themselves. So it's very hard to control, even though you said some of these pesticides are effective. The mobility of that grasshopper is just very devastating, I guess, to us.
Yeah, we definitely saw some real high populations in northeast Colorado. That's That's the worst area we've seen this season. Yeah, I think you're right. We do communicate with Extension and Farm Service Agency and other agencies our survey results, but we probably need to reach out even more now that there's some bigger problems. I think like you said, Extension is a good resource to outreach directly to the landowners and land managers. We're a pretty small office, so there's only so much we can do with individuals, but we can try and work harder this season to try and educate the county extension on what we do and our program. You broke up a little bit, so let me know if I missed something, David.
No, I think they did well there. Another question I forgot to ask is you had mentioned, when you know what your funding is, I guess, is there a specific time that you guys are notified? And if that's the case, I think it would be great to educate the ag producers too of when that is. As you were mentioning, the early stages of those nymphs are when lilacs are blooming or early spring. I think hopefully the contractors or applicators, if you will, know that as well, which I think they do. But the longer the season goes on, I'm thinking there's still a few producers out there, if you will, that want to see how the results of their neighbors' efforts were. And when they do that, again, like I say, the mobility of the grasshoppers and the succession of that life cycle, there could be a lot of implosions, or if that's the right word, in the meantime, by the time somebody may even think about doing another application across the way or across the county, so to speak, in that regard, or townships.
Yeah, that's the tough thing about it. If you're doing treatments and some of your neighbors aren't, they'll move until they find food. I mean, some species of grasshoppers move more than others, like Melanoplus sanguinipes. They'll move 50 miles. They can move that much. Most don't move that much, but yeah, it makes it tough if you're doing treatments and your neighbors aren't. As far as funding goes, it's usually problematic, as far as the federal budget being passed, and there's a lot of levels that it streams down, through USDA to APHIS. So usually in my opinion, it's not early enough. Like I said, that was a problem for the cricket surveys. We were ready to go, but just didn't get funding in time. So hopefully it's a better budget year that can start the process, that it gets passed sooner, which will start the process sooner and we'll know. But, until things progress, this fall and winter, we won't.
It looks like.
Oh, Mike, this is Kate Greenberg, Commissioner of Ag. Thanks for being on. 2 questions with the RATS application. Is there anything on the horizon that is even more precise than RATS? Just thinking about precision agriculture in general, just getting more and more precise with applications, wondering if there's effective technology you're looking at just to advance the precision. And then second question is on organic applications for rangeland. What, if any, products you're seeing as effective on the organic front?
On the organic front, there's a biocontrol that used to have been available, Nosemia. I think it's a fungal pathogen, but I think there was problems with the manufacturer of that product, so it's not available anymore. It was never used. It was never used by APHIS though, because it wasn't effective enough for our programs. And as far as precision agriculture goes, really the best we have right now is the RATS program. I'm not aware of anything on the horizon, but we do have science and technology lab in Arizona. That's one of their main jobs, is they work on, you know, if doing studies on, you know, what's effective on killing grasshoppers. So I'm not sure if they have anything on the horizon.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, with the organic bait manufacturer, the one in Colorado, it's already they stopped. There is another one we found in Montana, and then they also provided that information to David, and so that producers can request them so that they can register also if they have, you know, enough capacity, and then they also want to do, you know, business and operation here. Otherwise, there is only one in Montana that that manufactures the bait, the organic bait.
So how do you get it here?
Either as the registrant, they register to us, but we regulate, therefore we don't invite and then communicate them basically as a state, because we are basically.
So they would have
register. Yeah,
you would have to reach out to them.
Yeah, producers reach out to them, or usually, you know, they look for market, and then they, you know, they come in.
So they need to have demand in Colorado in order to register. What was the name of the company or the product again?
I'll just look for the name, and then Jolene basically look for, and another. I think concerning APHIS budget, I think in next year's budget, APHIS already have secured the grasshopper and moron cricket suppression program support, and then I think there is legislative demand from Montana and particularly Wyoming. It's statewide. The problem is more statewide. Here in Colorado, it's, you know, patchy here and there, so it's not as a major and priority compared to other states. The northern Montana, it's very serious problem that they have, and so they basically now, fortunately, we do have, and then I think it's just a matter of allocation and making it available here. And by the time also, we need to be well prepared, especially for grasshopper. What the last time I think with Pat and Mike, they need to do the environmental assessment so that we do have the ability to utilize the program. Otherwise, currently we don't have, as been informed by Mike. So hopefully that it will be working on, and then we'll have to be ready. But for more complicated, if there is a need, definitely they do have the EA, so immediately can use. Thank you for your continued work and on this program.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks for all your responses and this presentation. It was great.
Okay. There's another question here, Michael.
Okay.
You have a comment?
Yeah, it actually is just a comment, and I will go ahead and I guess I could read it aloud. CSU Extension entomology specialist Mel Schreiner and former CSU entomologist Bob Hammond have some helpful thoughts about efficacy of various pesticides. We just don't have a perfect option for crops, especially organic crop producers. Scott Schnell and Wyoming may also be helpful. So helpful resources if anyone else is interested.
Okay. Yes, thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
You gave today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving forward, I think we'll break for lunch. 45 minutes. It's 12:35.
What do you think about shortening that? Because our grantees on their way? They're already here. Oh, they're here already.
Yeah, they
okay.
not want to come in.
Okay. Just making it shortened, and we can have them come in during lunch. Was that the idea? Sure.
Okay.
Virtual folks.
Okay.
Any objection?
You want to do that? Just.
I think, if you guys are okay bringing them in now, I think then we wouldn't have any, that's our last agenda item on the meeting, and we could just bring them in and wait a couple more minutes for lunch. Is that okay?
Yes.
With
Maybe
everyone?
we can do like a 15-minute break so that we can get lunch. Whoever's online can take a break and then.
Working lunch.
Yeah, and then just bring them back in and have them talk.
Okay, we'll reconvene in 15 minutes, grab our lunch, and then have the presentation for the people that are virtual.
Yeah, just so that they have a little break
Okay.
time too.
12:50, right?
Yes, let's reconvene at 12:50, if we would, please, people.
Just to humor you, I'm waiting for the mobile delivery of my lunch.
Send a drone, David.
Thank you. See you pretty soon.
Okay, we're gonna start back up here after our lunch break for the soil health program. Brian and John, welcome. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Good to see you, Simon. Yeah, I'm John Rizzo. I'm with the soil health program. I'm the West Slope Soil Health Coordinator, located here in Grand Junction, and cover basically everything this side of the divide. And we're really fortunate to have Brian Adams from GJ Farmstead here with us. He was a first round recipient from the original grant opportunity we had starting in 21. Right? So we just thought we'd kind of chat for a second. Brian, give us a little overview of maybe where you're at and what the opportunity was that you saw in the soil health program, and then we can talk a little bit about the grant. And what you received for the equipment as well.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'm Brian. We run a very small operation here in Clifton, and the first thing that caught my eye about the soil health grant was that small producers were included in it. So many of the things available, we just didn't fit the criteria because of our small land size. So that being said, that we were excited about. With our small size, there wasn't a, hugely impactful financial reason for being behind it, but we truly believe that soil health is, the backbone of what we do, and produces the best food with the best nutrient density that we have gotten away from in our country, to be honest. I don't think there's a lot of emphasis put on that in our current food system. So this grant we saw as a way that, it kind of aligned with a lot of things that we believe in and what we're striving for at the farm. So we're very fortunate to be selected. We may be the smallest recipient from an acreage perspective.
Not quite, but close.
Yeah.
You have a handful of folks in your area. But yeah, you guys definitely have a smaller operation.
Yeah.
But big impact too.
Yeah, and that's, we're happy to do that. I think with the practices and the way that we do grow food, we do look to get as much as we can out of a small space. It's the only way we can make this a living instead of just something we do in the evening and on a weekend. So as we got involved in it, there were some great resources that came with the program. The soil tests that were available they were great for us. They include some biology components of the soil, which is really our primary focus. We don't, or in the past, didn't spend a lot of time trying to worry about the chemical composition of our soil. We were more worried about building a soil that had biology, fungus, and those kinds of things doing the work for us, that we didn't have to try and be chemists out there. And so with that, and then we also received soil moisture monitors in the field, which was a big learning curve for me, real eye-opening experience. The way I thought our drip irrigation worked, where I thought heavy spot was actually the spot getting less water, that I wouldn't have known without those monitors being in the ground. So yeah, when I thought I was overwatering, it was actually underwater. Pretty wild. And I could have just listened to my wife, Dawn, who started the farm, but what kind of couple would we be if I did that? But no, so those components were really great. And then in the first round also, there was an equipment component of funding that really helped us to kind of close the last gap of animal integration into our small operation. So we were very fortunate to get some funding to, now we've got some birds with plans of next season having some goat, pig back in the garden, and working to improve our soil and beat back some of these perennial grasses we're battling.
And what about the chipper?
And the chipper, yeah, huge component for us to use. You know, we live in a great place that's got fruitwood and springtime fruitwood. When that's chipped up, the little budding fruit is got a real great biological component, great food for a fungus. So we're able to put that in our alleyways now of our farm to really help boost our fungal activity, which I think is the real missing component when you're trying to farm in a desert. Very difficult to get a fungal life established and keep it going. So we're super excited to have that.
Yeah, I think it's a big difference. And so right now, Brian's in the third year of the program. So this is kind of the wrap up. They're going to be doing reimbursements. We took the soil sample already. They're working at the lab to analyze those, and there's a biological component, and that takes quite a bit of time to process those samples. So here about the beginning of October, we'll be having those results. We'll look at those. We'll get a report together. We'll visit with all the producers, Brian included, and we'll talk about where they started in year one, where they're at in year three, what the practices they implemented. We'll break it down by all the different pieces of the biology and the micro and macronutrients and all the other aspects, so that we can have a conversation and see, okay, what did you guys do? How did it work for you? We saw a benefit here. Did that, relate to what you're seeing in the field? And how can we then help set the stage so these folks can continue to implement those practices beyond what the program, because they won't have that opportunity anymore. So it's also looking at the financials and all the other aspects of it, so that they can integrate and decide, okay, we do want to implement this practice. It was a benefit for us. We can do that. The financial is there. Now that we don't have the help, we can continue to move forward. So there's still going to be support for these first round folks, not just this year, but in the future. And I think the other thing that we've been doing a lot of is really learning from Brian and others about what can we do to provide more technical expertise. And so we've been visiting the farm a little more and trying to really paint this picture. And then also, how can we help connect them with other producers and other people and create that farmer to farmer opportunity we really want, because we know if I show up, it doesn't matter, but if these guys start talking to each other, that's the butter right there, if you will, right? So, so yeah, I think that's about all we wanted to go over. Did I miss anything you wanted to touch on?
No, I think it's a great program. I think there's so much that goes on beneath our feet that is very much taken for granted. And I know just a touch. I mean, still have a lot to learn about it, but to me, it's great that our state is bringing this to the forefront. And I think it's practices that are just given time. We've definitely seen benefits in what we're doing and how we're doing things. Our garden this year, as the year before and the year before that, we just keep saying this is our best year we've had. And it's not because we're putting a a bunch of new late great fertilizers or any kind of things like that. It's because we're continuing to follow these soil health principles and really disturbing them as little as we can and trying to enhance what is there. So the more folks can invest the time, take that risk, I think that they'll find these things work. I really do.
Cool. Awesome, man. Well, appreciate you.
Thank you guys, for real. It's good to be a part of growing food.
I have a question, Brian, around that, what your comment about your neighbors, and like, do you have people who aren't participating in the STAR program who've seen over the last few years, like what you have seen or heard from you? Has anybody been interested in learning more about being part of it, or do you have people who are still a little on the fence with trying to jump into this kind of program?
I will say, so when we moved into our place, we're our 6th season now, and it was it's 3.5 acres, and it was a hay farm that one of our neighbors had been producing hay on for, I think, about 13 years. And he did tell me when we were moving in and he found out what we were doing, he was worried about how much water we were going to be taking. And a couple of years ago, in fact, last spring, I was talking with him and he said, you know, I haven't even noticed that you guys are here. And I was really worried from a perspective of water, what that might look like. And so that opened up a conversation for us about, you know, I see the way that he is very conventional in his hay production. And so we started talking about even just the introduction of biology through a compost tea. And so this season, we actually applied some of that to one of his fields. So I'll see how it goes. Haven't heard from him yet, but yeah, I think it piques interest. It's something I would never go to another producer and tell them what they should do different or anything like that. But if we can maybe be just an example and maybe pique some curiosity, that's great for us. Yeah.
From a small producer standpoint, working with the department, what worked well for you, or what's working well, and what could we do better, especially to serve small producers?
Well, having even just the opportunity for a small producer to be in this program, I think is a huge step. I haven't been in farming a terribly long time. This is my 8th season. My wife started our farm 10 years ago, so we didn't grow up at all in it. But from my perspective, there just isn't a lot of small producer opportunity where opening it up to that, I think, was very helpful. I think the people that I've interacted with in the program have been great, very easy to talk to. It's not like I've had questions or concerns and reached out, not gotten responses. So I've not felt like I'm a small fish in a big sea as far as this program goes, which is nice. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot of other perspective on it, but it's been great for us, and hopefully there's more to come.
I think one of our big focus with especially producers like Brian are kind of on the tail end of the actual funding cycle of this is how can we continue to provide technical assistance, whether it's directly from us, our expertise, or connecting you guys and all that. And I think that's a huge focus for us, is trying to find ways to do that. We're building this really great group of folks who are just super intelligent and well-connected. And how do we keep engaging, revisiting, and going? Because I think we all know the soil health thing doesn't just happen overnight, right? It takes a long time. Like Brian's saying, 6 years, we're finally starting to get there. This program kind of helped, I think, to boost you guys and give you some opportunities and connect you with some more. And so that's a big focus for us, is really trying to get that expertise network, not just in-house, but with everyone we have in the agricultural community, so that we can say, oh yeah, hey, let's call Frank up and talk to them or whoever, right? And trying to connect that way. So that's a huge focus for us, and I think something that we can really value add to these folks after the dollars are not really available.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for John and Brian? Online or? Okay, well, thank you, John, Brian, for coming in.
Absolutely. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much.
One of these times we'll have to have you all out to the farm so you can see what's going on out there and how the funding was utilized, so.
Cool. Yeah, be happy to.
We'll have to come earlier next year. Into it for berry season, so next year.
Good. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Okay, it looks like we've gone through the agenda items and the next meeting is scheduled for October 16th, 12 to 3 o'clock, excuse me, 12:30. Virtual. Okay. Any other comments, suggestions, questions?
I think just pick up your Cultivating Colorado latest edition. So trip to the farm shop, and you'll see some familiar faces in there.
Yep. Thank you. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thanks so much.
Okay, I'll need to have someone make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Simon, this is Colleen. I so move to adjourn your meeting.
I second.
Thank you, Harrison. Colleen, thank you. Harrison, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Seen any? Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.